What does it mean to be a freeloader? The elderly woman is nothing but a leech. Tell her to scram. H. Musher, get out, you old hag. I never imagined that words of disrespect could cut so deeply, especially when they came from a child's lips. This all started a few years back when my husband passed away in his early 30s. Right up until the end, he held my hand and whispered, "Aurea, I'm sorry. Find happiness." Sadly, achieving that happiness was a struggle. Part of the challenge stemmed from living with my mother. Around the time my husband died, my father also passed away unexpectedly. My mother, who resides in a remote area where a car is a necessity but lacks a driver's license, was worried. So, despite the longer commute to work, I opted to move in with her. In hindsight, that choice was a mistake. Initially, my mother suggested, "Let's cooperate and live together." But soon, she settled in sloppily, treating the sofa like her personal nest. Despite our initial agreement, she made no effort to help with chores. Whenever I brought it up, she'd retort, "You're the worst daughter, forcing an old woman to work. You're already a disgrace for coming back home." Her words cut deep, keeping me awake that night, deeply hurt. The next morning, I mustered courage and said, "Mom, if you dislike having me here so much, I can leave." She glared at me, responding sharply, "You know I can't manage without you for shopping. Are you trying to threaten me?" "No, I just thought maybe I'm making things difficult for you." "Then just do your part and be useful," she grumbled, reluctantly eating the breakfast I prepared. I was at a loss, unsure of what she truly wanted. Her constant complaints wore down my spirit. The toll of the long commute and sole responsibility for household chores took a toll on my physical health. Each day after work, I tackled all the tasks she neglected before collapsing into bed. In a life devoid of personal enjoyment, my mother's criticisms became a daily burden. Just when I thought the monotonous days would stretch on forever, a sudden and significant event shook things up. My brother's family appeared at our doorstep unexpectedly. "What brings you here all of a sudden?" My brother, Louis, his wife, and their son rarely visited because they found the countryside dull. Confused, I looked to my sister-in-law, Alvina, who tilted her head. "Did Mom tell you?" Before I could respond, my mother hurried in and warmly welcomed them. She praised my brother's family for coming so well prepared. "What's happening?" I asked, trying to make sense of the situation. "We're moving in with Louis and his family now, so Aurea, you're not needed here anymore. Start packing," she declared bluntly, brushing off my shock. She ushered my brother's family inside, and they settled into the living room, lugging heavy bags with them. Almost immediately, my mom instructed me to make coffee. As I started preparing it, tears threatened to spill. It wasn't the first time I felt the sting of her unequal treatment. From childhood, she showered my brother with everything he wanted on his birthdays, while mine were marked with thoughtless gifts. When college came around, my brother received financial support, while I was denied, with my mom asserting that women didn't need higher education. Determined, I worked tirelessly, secured a scholarship, and graduated from a 4-year college, juggling part-time jobs and studies. When my husband passed away and my mom offered to move in with me, I hoped it signaled a change in her attitude towards me. Unfortunately, I soon realized I was mistaken. Finishing the coffee for everyone, I retreated to my room, unwanted and unseen by my own mother. "I need to start searching for a new place to live right away," I thought to myself as I prepared to leave the living room. Just then, I felt a sudden jolt in my back, causing me to stumble forward. Startled and lost in sadness, I turned to see Delano, my nephew, who had kicked me. "Ouch! That hurts. You can't kick people," I told him firmly. Upon hearing my voice, Alvina, his mother, surprised me by saying, "Aurea, please let it go." Delano grinned mischievously and boasted, "I took down the old lady." Alvina chuckled and replied, "Yes, you did." Confused and dismayed, I showed them my bruised knee. Isn't it basic to teach children not to kick people? I'm genuinely hurt. Why shouldn't I correct Delano? We believe in no scold parenting. We let our child explore and grow freely. Alvina interjected with clear annoyance. She then took Delano by the hand and departed, stating, "There's no point in continuing this conversation. Let's go play in the living room." I seethed with anger, but it was evident that my mother, brother, and Alvina were united against me. Engaging in a futile argument wouldn't achieve anything, so I retreated to the kitchen to compose myself. Just as I was on the verge of breaking down, I sought solace in sweets. I remembered having some cream puffs in the kitchen, but when I arrived, my brother was already opening the fridge, exclaiming, "Ah, cream puffs. Delano, would you like a cream puff?" He called out to the living room, and Delano eagerly ran over to grab one. I snapped at my brother. "Hey, that cream puff was meant for me. Why are you giving away things from someone else's house to your child?" "Oh, so that was yours? Well, the cream puff seems happier being enjoyed by a cute kid. Getting upset with a child? You're overreacting," my brother retorted casually. "I'm not upset with Delano. I'm upset with you for giving away my cream puff." My raised voice must have carried because soon both my mom and Alvina entered the kitchen. "Aria, enough already. Stop picking fights with your brother. Don't you have better things to do? When do you plan on leaving?" My mom interjected firmly. "Leave? You just told me to leave." "I have nowhere to go today," I shot back. "Oh, poor dear. How about we let Aria stay until she finds a new place?" Avena chimed in with false sympathy. Reluctantly, my mom agreed, saying, "Avena, you're so generous." I felt frustrated, knowing that arguing wouldn't solve anything, but I couldn't hold back my discontent. "What do you mean, support me? I contribute half of the living expenses in this house. Why am I treated like this?" I exclaimed. "You're still relying on your parents' support, right? Isn't the money from Dad's inheritance?" My brother presumed. "In reality, I cover all household expenses with my own salary," I clarified. "But my brother and his wife assume I'm living off our late father and mother, so arguing seems pointless." Delano, done with his cream puff, piped up, "What does support me mean?" With a smug smile, my brother pointed at me. "It means her. She's a loser who needs support. Tell her to leave, huh? Freeloader. Get out, old lady." I never expected the sting of a child's insult to cut so deeply. My sadness quickly boiled into rage. "I'll leave as soon as I find a new place, but I'm taking everything I brought with me." "That's all right with you, isn't it, big brother?" I retorted sharply. "Sure, go ahead," he replied, his tone mocking. My anger surged to new heights. In that moment, I vowed never to forgive them. Determined, I made plans and set a swift timeline to move out. On the day of my departure, as a final gesture of respect, I surprised my mom and brother's family with a vacation. They eagerly set off, unaware of what awaited them upon their return. I completed my move, imagining their astonished faces when they discovered my absence. Leaving behind a notebook in the living room, I departed for my new home with a renewed sense of independence. The next evening, my phone rang, and I answered to a frantic call from Alvina. "Aria, what's going on? The house is empty. They must be in a panic. Everything from the fridge to the washing machine is gone." I had warned my brother that I would take everything I had bought, and I followed through. When I moved in, everything was old, so I replaced it all. My mom was aware of this. I could hear Alvina shouting at my mom, "Why didn't you stop, Aria?" My mom's feeble response came back, "I never thought she'd actually go through with it." In the background, I could hear Delano crying. They were in more chaos than I had anticipated. Aria claims she bought everything herself, but there's no proof. Didn't she use Dad's inheritance for all of it? My father didn't leave us any inheritance. You and my brother were gone right after the funeral, so you probably didn't know. There's no way you could have sent us that much money just from your pension, Alvina argued. Actually, that money came from me, I clarified. What? Alvina sounded astonished. I paid for everything. Check the notebook in the living room. The notebook contained receipts for every item I had purchased for the household. Alvina looked through it, clearly confused. What does this mean? I explained. I have more financial resources than you and my brother realize. I didn't receive any help with college tuition, which was frustrating, but I used that frustration as motivation. I worked hard during my job search and eventually secured a position at a top-tier company. Accustomed to hard work, I excelled in my role and am now the only woman among my peers on a fast track to promotion. My mom and brother never seemed interested in my work, so I never bothered to tell them, Alvina explained over the phone. Both my mom and brother appeared shaken, but I felt no obligation to prolong the conversation. Feel free to live your life without the burden of supporting me, I calmly stated before hanging up. That night, I slept peacefully in a quiet home for the first time in a while. It was truly serene, free from being kicked or hit by my nephew, and without anyone urging me to leave. A few days of tranquility passed. Then, unexpectedly, my mom and brother's family discovered where I lived and showed up at my door. When I asked through the doorbell, What do you want? My brother pleaded. Please return the appliances or lend us money to buy new ones. We're at our limit? I had assumed my brother could manage, but it turned out he had quit his job when they moved here. When I returned home, I had no rent to pay. They thought they could live off my mom's pension, what they assumed was my dad's inheritance. When I laughed at their foolishness, my brother became furious and started yelling. Ignoring him, I calmly called the police. Hello, there's a commotion at my apartment entrance, and it's quite frightening. Could you send someone over? The police arrived within minutes, thanks to my proximity to a police station. The security in my new place was outstanding. Anticipating that my family might track me down, I had informed friends of my move and deliberately chosen an apartment close to a police station. I had resolved that if my mom and brother's family ever showed up, I'd immediately involve the police. As expected, they received a stern warning and left in a hurry. After the police intervention, I was confident they wouldn't bother me again. I blocked their phone numbers and email accounts, successfully severing all ties. I later heard updates about my mom and brother's family from local friends. My brother is now working part-time at a grocery store, 90 minutes away by car from our hometown. He's so inept that he gets yelled at daily. In that rural area, there are few job opportunities, so he clings to his job, constantly scolded by a younger manager. My nephew Delano started kindergarten but is struggling to make friends. Thanks to Alvina's lax parenting, Delano has become so spoiled that he's hitting his classmates just as he used to do to me. Word spread among the moms, and now Alvina and Delano are isolated because no one wants to associate with them. Delano's stress manifests in daily tantrums at home, causing chaos and further damaging their already old house. Furthermore, Delano seems to have developed a deep mistrust of people. He won't even leave the house and has stopped going to kindergarten. Alvina spends her days crying, repeatedly asking, "How did it come to this?" As for me, I'm thoroughly enjoying living alone. The desire for my mother's approval vanished when I cut ties, and now I'm relishing the freedom I finally gained. My life is comfortable as I balance work and independence. Living alone can be lonely at times, but I haven't met anyone I like more than my late husband. I hope that someday I'll meet someone I can love as much as him. When that time comes, I'll be ready to start a new chapter in my life. Hey there, I'm Nancy Thompson, just your average 18-year-old with big dreams and a small bank account. It's a typical Friday night, and I'm wiping down tables at Joe's Diner, daydreaming about college life. Mike, my boyfriend, is sitting at the counter, keeping me company. You're going to kill it at Westbrook, Nance, Mike says, grinning over his milkshake. I smile back. Thanks, babe. I just hope this job and my college fund will be enough to cover it all. Just then, my phone buzzes. It's a text from my cousin, Emily. You free tomorrow? Dad wants us all over for dinner. I roll my eyes. Uncle Robert's family dinners usually just turn into him bragging about his latest business deal. But hey, free food is free food, right? Sure, I'll be there, I text back. The next day, I'm helping Mom, Sarah, Tia with the dishes when she brings up the college fund. Honey, have you talked to Uncle Robert about accessing your fund? Tuition's due soon. I pause, holding a sudsy plate in my hand. Not yet. I'll ask him at dinner tonight. Mom looks worried. Just be careful, okay? Your uncle can be unpredictable sometimes. I brush off her concern. Relax, Mom. Uncle Robert's got this. Dad trusted him with the money. At dinner, Emily and I are chatting about dorm life when Uncle Robert clears his throat. So, Nancy, I hear you got into Westbrook. Congrats, kiddo. Thanks, Uncle Robert. Actually, I wanted to ask you about. He cuts me off. You know, when I was your age, I worked my way through college. Built character, it did. I force a smile. That's great, but about my college fund. He interrupts again, his tone turning serious. Nancy, you can't always rely on handouts. Sometimes you've got to make your own way in life. Something in his voice makes my stomach twist, but before I can say more, he changes the subject, going on about his latest big deal. As we're leaving, I pull Emily aside. Is everything okay with your dad? He seemed off. Emily shrugs, but there's a flicker of something in her eyes. You know Dad, always up to something. That night, I can't shake the uneasy feeling. I dig out my Westbrook acceptance letter, staring at the tuition costs. It's a lot, but with my college fund, it should be doable, right? Little did I know, my world was about to turn upside down. But hey, That's a story for another day. Stay tuned, folks. Things are about to get real interesting around here. I couldn't sleep that night, tossing and turning with worry. The next morning, I decide to bite the bullet and call Uncle Robert about the college fund. Hey, kiddo, what's up? His voice sounded strained. Uncle Robert, I need to access my college fund. Tuition's due soon. There was a long pause. Listen, Nancy, we need to talk. Can you come by the house later? My stomach sank. When I got there, Mom was already waiting, her face tight with concern. What's going on? I asked, my voice trembling. Uncle Robert couldn't look us in the eye. I made a mistake. The college fund, it's gone. Gone? I echoed, not understanding. What do you mean gone? He started rambling about bad investments and market crashes. But Mom cut him off, her voice sharp. Robert, tell her the truth. He deflated, slumping in his chair. I used it for my divorce from Karen. I was going to pay it back, I swear. The room began to spin. You used my college fund for your divorce? My voice cracked with disbelief. How could you? I'm sorry, Nancy. I'll make it right, I promise. Mom's voice was ice cold. Like you promised to pay back all the loans you took from me? I whirled around, stunned. What loans? Mom looked down, ashamed. Your uncle's been borrowing money for years. I thought you'd pay it back. I felt my world crumble. All those times we'd struggled, pinching pennies, and Uncle Robert had been draining us dry. Just then, Emily burst into the room, her face flushed with anger. Dad, what did you do? She turned to me, eyes brimming with tears. Nancy, I'm so sorry. I just found out. You knew? The betrayal was like a punch to the gut. No, not exactly. I knew things were bad with the divorce, but I didn't know about the fund. Uncle Robert tried to interject, but Emily wasn't finished. Tell them, Dad. Tell them why Mom really left. Uncle Robert paled. Emily, please. But she was on a roll. He cheated on Mom, over and over again. And he's been borrowing money from her company too. Each revelation hit like a tidal wave. I felt like I was drowning. I trusted you, I choked out. We all did. Uncle Robert reached out, but I pulled away. Nancy, please. I'll fix this. I've got a new deal in the works. Another get-rich-quick scheme, Mom scoffed. Enough, Robert. I couldn't take it anymore. Without another word, I bolted out of the house, ignoring their calls as I ran until my lungs burned. Finally, I collapsed on a park bench, gasping for air. My phone buzzed. It was Mike. Nance, you okay? Emily called me. I broke down, spilling everything between sobs. I'll be right there, he said. As I waited, I scrolled through old family photos on my phone. All those smiling faces. Had it all been a lie? Mike arrived and wrapped me in a bear hug. We'll figure this out, he promised. But as I sat there, I knew things would never be the same. The uncle I once trusted was gone, replaced by a stranger who had stolen not just my future but my trust. One thing was clear. I wasn't going down without a fight. Uncle Robert had no idea what was coming. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. I worked double shifts at the diner, barely sleeping, trying to figure out how to salvage my college dreams. Mike's family knew a lawyer, Mr. Jacobson, who agreed to meet with me pro bono. Nancy, based on what you've told me, you have a solid case against your uncle, Mr. Jacobson said, flipping through my documents. I bit my lip. But he's family. Is suing him really the right thing to do? Mr. Jacobson leaned forward. Nancy, what he did was illegal. You have every right to fight for what's yours. After a sleepless night, I made my decision. We filed the lawsuit against Uncle Robert the next day. When word got out, all hell broke loose. Uncle Robert called everyone in the family, spinning a tale about how I was an ungrateful brat tearing the family apart. Some of my cousins turned on me. Only Emily stood by my side, which caused a rift between her and her dad. I'm so sorry, Nance, she said one day over coffee. I had no idea how bad things really were. I squeezed her hand. It's not your fault, Em. Meanwhile, I kept pulling extra shifts at the diner. One night, as I was closing up, my boss, Linda, called me into her office. Nancy, I've been impressed with your work ethic lately. How would you like to be a management trainee? We can work around your school schedule. I nearly burst into tears. Linda, that would be amazing. Thank you. As I was leaving, I overheard two businessmen talking about a deal with Uncle Robert. Something about the numbers they were discussing didn't add up. Curious, I did some digging. Turns out, Uncle Robert had been cooking the books for years. I anonymously tipped off one of his business partners, Mr. Donovan. A few days later, I was having lunch with Mom when my phone buzzed. It was Emily. "Nancy, you won't believe what just happened. The feds showed up at Dad's office." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Really? What for?" "Something about fraud. Nancy, I think Dad's in serious trouble." As I hung up, Mom looked at me, suspicious. "Nancy, do you know something about this?" I took a deep breath. "Mom, there's something I need to tell you." I spilled everything. The overheard conversation, my investigation, the anonymous tip. Mom listened, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "Nancy, what you did was risky. I'm proud of you for standing up for what's right," Mom said softly. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Mr. Jacobson. "Nancy, we need to talk. There's been a development in your case." I looked at Mom, anxiety and hope swirling inside me. Whatever was coming next, one thing was certain. I wasn't backing down. Uncle Robert was about to learn the hard way that actions have consequences, and I was done being his victim. A few days later, Emily called, her voice shaky. "Nancy, it's bad. The feds raided Dad's office. They're saying it's fraud, a lot of it." I felt a mix of vindication and sadness. I'm so sorry you're caught in the middle of this." "Don't be," she said firmly. "I'm done making excuses for him. I'm on your side, Nance." Meanwhile, I was juggling my new management role at the diner with endless scholarship applications. Linda, my boss, was a godsend, always working around my schedule. "You're going places, kid," she'd say, beaming with pride. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. Mom squeezed my hand as we sat in the courtroom. When the judge ruled in my favor, ordering Uncle Robert to repay the college fund with interest, a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. But the victory was bittersweet. Uncle Robert, looking defeated, approached us outside. "Nancy, Sarah, I'm sorry for everything. Can we please try to work this out as a family?" I looked at him, this man I once admired, now a shell of himself, and shook my head. "No, Uncle Robert, we can't. Some things can't be fixed with an apology." As we walked away, Mom whispered, "You did good, honey. Your dad would be proud." With a lawsuit settled and a few scholarships secured, I started my first semester at Westbrook U. It wasn't easy. I was still working part-time at the diner, but I was making it work. One crisp fall day, I was studying on the quad when Mike dropped down beside me, grinning. "How's my future hotshot lawyer doing?" I laughed, closing my textbook. "Ask me again after finals." We chatted about classes and friends, the conversation flowing easily. It hit me then just how much had changed, how much I had changed. The story of Nancy's fight against her uncle's betrayal has come to a close. But now I have a question for you. If you were in Nancy's shoes, would you have pursued legal action against your uncle? Or would you have tried to handle the situation within the family? What do you think the long-term consequences of each choice might be? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hi, I'm Hazel. You won't believe what I'm about to share. I've always been a bookworm, and as a literature professor at the local community college, I've turned that passion into a career. But my true pride and joy? My rare book collection. Over the years, I've gathered a treasure trove of first editions, signed copies, you name it. It's worth over $200,000 now. I like to joke with my husband Mark that it's our retirement plan. One evening, I carefully unwrapped a new package. "Honey, come look at this," I called out. "It's a first edition Hemingway." Mark wandered in, smiling. "Another one for the Hazel Thompson Library, huh?" he teased. "You bet. Thanks for always supporting my obsession." He kissed my cheek. "Hey, it makes you happy. And who knows? Maybe it'll pay for Ethan's college someday." Our 18-year-old son, Ethan, sprawled on the couch, buried in his phone. "Mom, Dad, can we talk about college? Tuition's due soon." I glanced at Mark. "Don't worry, sweetie. We've been saving for years. It's all taken care of." Later that week, I met my best friend, Lisa, for coffee. She stirred her latte, giving me a look. "I don't know how you do it, Hazel. Balancing work, family, and that incredible collection." I shrugged. "It's not easy, but it's worth it." "Oh, did I tell you? Mark's brother Tom and his son Jake are coming over for dinner tonight." Lisa rolled her eyes. Jake, the entrepreneur. What's his latest get-rich-quick scheme? Who knows? I sighed. But Mark gets so excited about Jake's ideas. I just hope he doesn't rope us into investing again. That evening, as I set the table, Jake launched into his pitch. Uncle Mark, Aunt Hazel, you've got to hear about this new crypto platform I'm developing. It's going to be huge. Tom beamed. My boy's got a real knack for business. This could be his big break. I caught Mark's eye, silently pleading with him not to get carried away. He gave me a reassuring nod. As we cleared the dishes, Ethan chimed in. Mom, can we go over my class schedule? I'm so excited to start college. Of course, honey, I'm excited too. Your future is bright and will support you every step of the way. Little did I know, everything was about to unravel. My beloved books, my son's future, my trust in my husband. But that's a story for another day. For now, I was just Hazel Thompson, literature professor and rare book enthusiast, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. I couldn't wait to get home after the conference. It had been great, but I missed my family. As I approached the house, I heard Mark's voice through the open window. He sounded excited. Yeah, the books are all boxed up and ready to go. Hazel's entire collection, it's going to be a gold mine for Jake's startup. My heart stopped. I fumbled with my keys and burst through the door. I found Mark in his office. What do you mean my books are boxed up? My voice shook. Mark's face went pale. Hazel, you're home early. Answer me, Mark. What's going on with my books? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I sold them. All of them. The room started spinning. You did what? Jake's crypto platform. It's a sure thing. We're going to be rich. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You sold my entire collection, without even asking me, for Jake's latest harebrained scheme. It's not harebrained, Hazel. This is different. He looked desperate. I know you're upset. Upset? I'm beyond upset, Mark. Those books were my life's work. I shouted, my voice cracking with disbelief. Then a horrible thought struck me. Wait, how much did you invest? Mark wouldn't meet my eyes. Well, all of it, and a bit more. A cold wave of panic washed over me. What do you mean, a bit more, Mark? He mumbled something I couldn't make out. Speak up, my voice trembled. He finally blurted it out. Ethan's college fund, okay? I invested Ethan's college fund too. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. You use our son's future for Jake's crypto nonsense. It's not nonsense. It's going to pay off, Hazel. You'll see. We'll make back 10 times what we invested. I was beyond furious. Get the books back. Now. Mark shook his head, his face pale. I can't. The sales are final. They've already been shipped to buyers across the country. Just then, Ethan walked in, his face confused. Mom? Dad? Why are you yelling? I looked at Mark. Tell him, I demanded. Mark hesitated, then explained what he'd done. Ethan's face crumpled. My college fund. It's gone. I pulled him into a tight hug, glaring at Mark over Ethan's shoulder. We'll figure something out, honey. I promise. But Dad said it's a sure thing, Ethan whispered, his voice muffled against me. Right, Dad? Mark nodded eagerly. Absolutely. Jake's business is going to solve everything. You'll see. I'd never felt so betrayed. Mark, you've crossed a line. You've gambled with our son's future, and you've destroyed something that meant the world to me. Hazel, please, just give it a chance. In a few months, we'll be laughing about this. I shook my head, my heart breaking. No, Mark, we won't, because I don't know how I can ever trust you again. Are you sure about this? Lisa asked as she helped me unpack in her spare room. I don't have a choice, Lisa, I said, sighing. I can't stay with him after what he did. Ethan trudged in, carrying another box. Mom, where are we going to live? I hugged him tight. We'll figure it out, honey. For now, we're staying with Aunt Lisa. The next day, I met with Rachel, my lawyer friend, at a cafe. Hazel, I'm so sorry this happened to you, she said, looking over my documents. You have grounds for divorce, and we can pursue financial recovery, but it won't be easy. I nodded, fighting back tears. I know, I just need to focus on Ethan's future now. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into work. I took on extra classes, started tutoring, anything to make enough money to cover Ethan's college expenses. One night, unable to sleep, I started a blog about rare books. I poured my heart into it, sharing my knowledge and the story of my lost collection. Mom, Ethan peeked into my room. You okay? I smiled weakly. Just working on my blog, sweetie. Go back to sleep. To my surprise, the blog took off. Book lovers from all over the world reached out with messages of support and sympathy. You won't believe this, I told Lisa over coffee. My blog's gone viral. People are sharing their own stories of lost treasures. Lisa grinned. See, you're turning this nightmare into something positive. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Mark. Hazel, please. Jake's business, it's not going well. I made a mistake. Can we talk about reconciling? I took a deep breath. No, Mark. What you did, it's not something we can come back from. But I can make it right, I promise. Goodbye, Mark. I hung up, my hands shaking. Lisa squeezed my arm. You okay? I nodded. I will be. A few days later, I received an email from a man named David, a wealthy book collector who'd been following my blog. Dear Hazel, it read, your passion for rare books is evident. I'd like to offer you a job curating my private library. The salary would be substantial enough to support you and your son's education. I couldn't believe it. Lisa, look at this. She read over my shoulder, her eyes widening. Hazel, this is amazing. Are you going to take it? I looked at Ethan, who was studying at the kitchen table. What do you think, honey? Ready for a new adventure? He grinned. As long as we're together, Mom, I'm ready for anything. As I drafted my response to David, I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in weeks. My beloved books were gone, but maybe, just maybe, this was the start of a new chapter in our lives. Dear David, I typed, I would be honored to accept your offer. Mom, I got an A on my first college paper. Ethan's voice rang out as he burst into our new apartment. I beamed with pride. That's fantastic, honey. I knew you could do it. It had been 6 months since our world turned upside down. But things were finally looking up. My blog had become a go-to resource for rare book enthusiasts, and my job curating David's library was a dream come true. As I prepared for a small celebration I was hosting that evening, my phone buzzed. It was Lisa. Hazel, have you heard the news about Mark? My stomach tightened. No, what happened? Jake's crypto thing. It was a Ponzi scheme. The feds are investigating. I sat down stunned. What about Mark? He's not directly implicated in the fraud, but Lisa hesitated. Hazel, they found out he's been embezzling from his company to fund Jake's ventures. He's lost his job and might face charges. A whirlwind of emotions hit me, shock, anger, and strangely, a small sense of vindication. I don't know what to say. You okay? Lisa asked gently. I took a deep breath. Yeah, I think so. Thanks for letting me know. Later that evening, as my guests arrived, Ethan, Lisa, and my new colleagues from the book world, I couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed. To new beginnings, I toasted, raising my glass. And to you, Hazel, David added, smiling. Your blog and your work have been invaluable to the rare book community. I smiled, thinking about the literacy program I had donated to with my first paycheck. I just hope I can help others discover the joy of reading, even if my own collection is gone. As the night wore on, conversation flowed freely. We laughed, shared stories, and discussed future projects. Looking around at the people around me, my son, my best friend, and my new colleagues, I felt a warmth I hadn't experienced in a long time. When the last guest had left, Ethan helped me clean up. Mom, he said, his face serious, I'm really proud of you. You know that, right? Tears pricked my eyes. Thanks, sweetie. I'm proud of us both. As I got ready for bed that night, I caught my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me was different from the one I'd been 6 months ago. Stronger. More confident. Yes, I'd lost my precious books, but I gained something far more valuable. Self-respect, true friends, and a brighter future for myself and my son. The betrayal, painful as it was, had led me down a path of personal and professional growth I might never have discovered otherwise. As I drifted off to sleep, a sense of peace washed over me. Tomorrow was a new day, full of possibilities. For the first time in a long time, I was excited to see what it would bring. The story of Hazel, Mark, and their family has come to an end. Now, I have a question for you. If you were in Hazel's shoes, would you ever be able to forgive Mark for selling your prized possessions and gambling away your child's future? Or do you believe some betrayals are simply unforgivable, no matter the circumstances or promises of change? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hey everyone, I'm Moran, and I'm a nurse at Central Hospital. I'm sitting at this fancy dinner table, surrounded by my husband Jack's family. They're all decked out in designer clothes, sipping expensive wine, while I'm just trying not to spill anything on my Target dress. I've been married to Jack for 3 years now, and let me tell you, it's been a wild ride. Pamela, darling, tell everyone your exciting news, chirps Elizabeth, my mother-in-law, from across the table. Pamela, Jack's sister, practically glows as she announces, Gregory and I have decided to start trying for a baby. The table erupts in cheers and congratulations. I force a smile, but my stomach twists into knots. Jack and I have been talking about having kids too, but we haven't told anyone yet. Oh, how wonderful, Elizabeth gushes. I can't wait to have a precious little grandchild. It'll be so perfect, keeping our family line pure and strong. I nearly choke on my water. Did she really just say that? I glance at Jack, but he's busy patting Gregory on the back. I catch Richard, my father-in-law, giving Elizabeth a pointed look. So, Moran, Pamela turns to me, her smile tight. Any plans for you and Jack to start a family? Before I can respond, Elizabeth cuts in. Oh, I'm sure they're not ready yet, right, Moran? You're both so busy with work and all. I open my mouth to speak, but Jack jumps in. Mom's right. We're in no rush. It feels like a punch to the gut. We literally just talked about trying for a baby last night. What's going on? The conversation moves on, but I'm stuck in my own head, replaying Elizabeth's comment about keeping the family line pure. It's not the first time I've heard something like that, but it never gets easier. After dinner, I pull Jack aside in the hallway. What was that about? I thought we agreed we were ready. He runs a hand through his hair, avoiding my eyes. I know. Can we talk about this later? Now's not the time. I watch him walk back to his family, laughing at something Richard said. I've never felt more alone in a room full of people. On the drive home, the silence between us is deafening. I can't shake the feeling that something's off. The way they all looked at each other when Pamela made her announcement, the weird comments about purity. It's like they're speaking in code and I'm not allowed to know the meaning. As we pull into our driveway, Jack finally breaks the silence. Look, Moran, maybe we should hold off on the baby thing for a while. Let Pamela have her moment, you know. I feel like I've been slapped. Her moment? Jack, this isn't a competition. We're talking about our family, our future. He sighs, looking frustrated. Can we just wait? Please? I couldn't believe it when I saw those 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test a few weeks later. My heart raced as I waited for Jack to come home. When he walked through the door, I practically jumped into his arms. Well, what's got you so excited? He laughed. Jack, I think I'm pregnant. His face lit up, but then I saw something else. Worry, maybe even fear. He hugged me tight and whispered, That's amazing, babe. But let's keep it quiet for now, okay? Just until we're sure. I agreed, but something felt off. Still, I pushed the feeling aside, focusing on the joy of possibly becoming a mom. A few days later, we had another family dinner at Richard and Elizabeth's place. As I was heading to the bathroom, I overheard voices coming from Richard's study. The door was slightly ajar, and I couldn't help but listen. Jack, you need to put a stop to this. Richard's voice was low but firm. What are you talking about, Dad? This pregnancy nonsense with Moran. You can't let it happen. My blood ran cold. Elizabeth's voice chimed in, dripping with disdain. Think about the family, Jack, our reputation. We can't have our bloodline tainted. If she insists on having children, Richard continued, you might need to consider ending the marriage. I waited for Jack to defend me, to stand up to them. His response shattered my heart. I understand. I'll talk to her. I stumbled back to the dining room, my mind reeling. When Jack returned, I cornered him in a hushed whisper. How could you agree with him? He looked startled. You heard that? Moran, it's not what you think. I was just trying to keep the peace. Keep the peace? By throwing away our dreams? Our family? Before Jack could respond, Pamela sauntered over, her expression smug. What's this I hear about you two trying for a baby? I froze, unsure how she knew. Jack stammered. We're not, I mean. Pamela's face twisted in disgust. You can't be serious. A mixed-race child in this family? It would be a scandal. The room fell deathly silent. All eyes were on us. Elizabeth stepped forward, her voice sugary but cutting. Moran, dear, surely you understand our concerns. This isn't the right time for you to have children. Perhaps it's best if you reconsider your priorities. I looked at Jack, silently begging him to stand up for me, for us. But he just stood there, silent, conflicted. I couldn't take it anymore. Grabbing my purse, I rushed out, ignoring Jack's calls behind me. I drove straight to the hospital, tears blurring my vision. Dr. Aisha Roman, my colleague and friend, found me sobbing in the break room. She sat beside me, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. Moran, what happened? Through sobs, I told her everything about the pregnancy, the conversation I'd overheard, Pamela's vile comment. Aisha listened, her face shifting from shock to anger. That's absolutely unacceptable, she said firmly. Moran, you can't let them treat you this way. You have every right to start a family with your husband. But Jack, he didn't even defend me, I whispered, my voice trembling. Aisha squeezed my hand. Then it's time you defended yourself. Stand up to them, Moran. Don't let them bully you out of your dreams. Her words ignited something inside me. I wiped away my tears. You're right, I've spent too long trying to fit into their world. It's time I showed them who I really am. As I left the hospital that night, determination surged through me, though fear still lurked in the corners of my mind. I knew the battle ahead would be tough, but I was ready to fight for my future, even if that meant fighting against the family I had married into. Over the following weeks, I began paying closer attention to Jack's behavior. Late-night phone calls, hushed conversations that ended as soon as I entered the room. Something was definitely up. One evening, I overheard him in his study. Yes, Dad, I understand the terms of the trust fund. No, I haven't told her yet. I know. Time is running out. My heart pounded. Trust fund? What was he talking about? The next day at the hospital, I confided in Michael, a colleague with access to administrative records. He offered to help me discreetly dig into whatever Jack was hiding. What we uncovered made me feel sick. Jack's family had set up a massive trust fund for him, one he could only access if he divorced me and married someone they approved of. They planned to disinherit him if we had a child together. I can't believe this, I whispered, staring at the documents Michael had pulled up. And there's more, Michael added grimly. He showed me records from Richard's real estate company revealing they'd been systematically denying rentals and sales to people of color for years. My heart sank. How deep did this go? But the surprises weren't over. A few days later, while working in the fertility clinic, I spotted a familiar face, Pamela. She was sneaking out of a consultation room, looking nervous. Curiosity got the better of me, and I checked the records. I was stunned. Pamela had been undergoing IVF treatments for months. She was struggling with fertility issues, but keeping it a secret from everyone. That night, I confronted Jack. I know about the trust fund. His face went pale. Moran, I can explain. Explain what? How you've been lying to me? How your family is trying to bribe you into leaving me? It's not like that, he said, his voice shaky. I was trying to figure out a way to fix this. I cut him off. And Pamela's fertility issues. Did you know about those too? Jack looked genuinely surprised. What? No, I had no idea. I sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. Jack, what are we doing? This whole situation is so messed up. He sat beside me, reaching for my hand. Despite everything, I let him take it. I'm so sorry, Moran. I've been a coward. I thought I could handle this on my own, protect you from it all. But I've only made things worse. I looked into his eyes, searching for the man I fell in love with. We're supposed to be partners, Jack. You should have told me. He nodded, tears filling his eyes. You're right. No more secrets. I'll tell you everything. As Jack started talking, I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and a small glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could find a way through this mess together. I spent days agonizing over what to do with everything I had uncovered. Finally, I decided it was time to take action. I called Dr. Roman and Michael, asking them to meet me at a coffee shop far from the hospital. I have a plan, I told them, but I'll need your help. We spent hours going over the details. Michael helped me compile a dossier on Richard's discriminatory housing practices, while Dr. Raymond offered to accompany me to the upcoming charity gala as moral support. The night before the gala, I anonymously tipped off Samantha Reeves, a respected investigative journalist, about Richard's company. My hands shook as I hit send on the email. As we moved through the crowded ballroom at the gala, I spotted Dr. Raymond and Michael. They gave me subtle nods. Everything was in place. Suddenly, a hush fell over the room. People were huddled around their phones, whispering urgently. I caught snippets of conversation. Richard's company, discrimination, investigation. Richard rushed past us, his face ashen. Pamela grabbed his arm, looking panicked. "Daddy, what's going on?" That's when I stepped forward, my voice carrying across the now silent room. "I think it's time we all heard the truth, don't you?" All eyes turned to me as I took a deep breath and continued. The truth about the discriminatory practices in Richard's company. The truth about the trust fund set up to bribe Jack into leaving me. The truth about this family's racist attitudes and schemes. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elizabeth stepped forward, her face livid. "How dare you, you ungrateful." But I cut her off. "No, Elizabeth. I'm done being silent. I'm done trying to fit into a family that sees me as less than human because of the color of my skin." I turned to Jack, my heart pounding. "It's time to choose, Jack, your racist family or our future together." The room held its breath as Jack looked from me to his family, conflict clear on his face. Then, slowly, he moved to stand beside me. "I choose Moran," he said firmly. "I'm done with the lies, the manipulation, the bigotry. I love my wife, and I'm ashamed it took me this long to stand up for her." Pamela, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly burst into tears. "This is all your fault," she screamed at me. "If you hadn't come along, everything would be perfect. I'd be pregnant by now and—" She clapped her hand over her mouth, realizing what she'd said. The room erupted in chaos. In the days that followed, Richard's company faced a full investigation. Former friends and business associates distanced themselves from the family, their true nature now exposed. Jack and I decided to renew our vows, this time in a ceremony that truly represented us. As I stood there, surrounded by our diverse group of friends and colleagues, my hand resting on my slightly swollen belly, I felt a sense of peace. That's the end of my story. Now, I want to ask you, if you were in Jack's position, torn between racist family expectations and love, what would you do? How far would you go to stand up against injustice? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Your support means everything. Hey there, I'm Sandra. I'm 28, and after going through hell and back, I'm finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Right now, I'm working part-time at this cozy little bookstore downtown called Pig Turner. It's not much, but it pays the bills and keeps a roof over my head in the modest apartment I share with my best friend, Lily. "Sandra, you're going to crush this final." Lily cheers as I hunch over my textbooks at our tiny kitchen table. I manage a tired smile. "Thanks, Lil. I can't believe I'm almost there." "Girl, after everything with that jerk Mike, you deserve this win," she says, her voice softening at the mention of my ex-husband. The name still sends a shiver down my spine. Mike, the nightmare I finally woke up from. "Sandra, you okay? You zoned out for a sec." I shake my head, clearing the memories. "Yeah, just remembering. But that's the past, right? I'm free now." Just then, my phone buzzes with a text from Jason, my English lit study buddy. "Hey Sandra, still on for our study session at the library?" I smile and type back, "Absolutely. See you in 20. Jason's been a lifesaver this semester. Smart, funny, and totally platonic. Exactly what I needed after the disaster with Mike. As I gather my books, Lily gives me a knowing look. "So, any updates on the Eric front?" I feel my cheeks flush. Eric, the sweet, unassuming guy who comes into the bookstore every week, always leaving with a new novel, and that smile that makes my heart skip a beat. He asked me if I wanted to grab coffee sometime. I admit, unable to hide my grin. Lily squeals and pulls me into a hug. "Sandra, that's amazing. You deserve someone who treats you right." As I head out the door, I can't help but feel a flutter of excitement. Graduation is just around the corner. I've got amazing friends, and maybe, just maybe, a chance at love again. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Little did I know, my past wasn't quite finished with me yet. But that's a story for another day. Right now, I've got a future to build, one page at a time. The morning of my graduation dawned bright and full of promise. Standing in front of the mirror, adjusting my cap and gown, it hardly seemed real that this day had finally arrived. "Sandra, you look amazing," Lily exclaims, snapping pictures with her phone. Total boss babe vibes. I laugh, striking a pose. "Thanks, Lil. I can't believe we're actually here." My phone buzzes again. This time a text from Eric. "Good luck today, Sandra. Can't wait to see you walk across that stage. You've earned this." My heart flutters. Eric has become such a significant part of my life in such a short time, and his support means everything. The auditorium buzzes with excitement as hundreds of graduates in black gowns mill about, eager and full of hope. I find my place in line, my heart pounding with anticipation. The ceremony begins, and as I watch my classmates cross the stage, pride swells within me. After everything I've overcome, this is my moment. "Sandra Johnson," the dean calls. My heart races as I step onto the stage, reaching for my diploma with trembling hands. Then, "Sandra, wait." A voice cuts through the ceremony, freezing me in place. No, it couldn't be. I turn and my blood runs cold. Rushing down the aisle is Mike, my ex-husband, the man who tried to crush my dreams for years. "What are you doing here?" I hiss as he bounds onto the stage, dropping to one knee, a ring in hand. The audience gasps. "Andra, baby, I'm so sorry for everything. Please, give me another chance. Marry me again." Time seems to stop. Hundreds of eyes are on me, murmurs ripple through the crowd. Somewhere, I know Eric is watching this nightmare unfold. "Are you insane?" I manage, my voice trembling with fury. "Get out of here, Mike. We're done. We've been done for years." Suddenly, security rushes in, pulling him away as he struggles, still calling my name. The ceremony dissolves into chaos. I flee the stage, pushing past confused faculty and classmates, tears blurring my vision. I don't stop running until I burst out into the bright sunlight. "Sandra, wait." Eric's voice calls after me. He catches up, concern etched on his face. "Are you okay? What the hell just happened in there?" I can't speak, the flood of emotions I've been holding back crashing over me in sobs. Eric wraps his arms around me, holding me close. "It's okay," he whispers. "I've got you. You're safe now." "I'm so sorry," I whisper through my tears. "This isn't how today was supposed to go." Eric shakes his head, his eyes warm. "You have nothing to apologize for. That guy, he's the one who should be sorry." "That was Mike," I explain, my voice raw. "My ex-husband. I thought I was finally free of him." Eric's jaw clenched. "What he did in there. That's not okay, Sandra. Have you thought about getting a restraining order?" I nodded, suddenly feeling exhausted. Maybe it's time I looked into that. As we walked away from the auditorium, my graduation gown billowing in the breeze, I felt a swirl of emotions. Anger at Mike for ruining my day, sadness for the celebration I'd lost, but also a glimmer of hope. Despite Mike's best efforts, I wasn't alone anymore. I had Eric, Lily, and a strength I was only just beginning to recognize within myself. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning of a new chapter. The days after the graduation disaster were a blur. I barely left my apartment, ignoring calls and messages from concerned friends. The anxiety and depression I thought I'd left behind with my marriage came crashing back like a tidal wave. "Sandra, you need to eat something," Eric said gently, setting a plate of toast on my bedside table. He'd been a constant presence, patient and understanding, even when I tried to push him away. I can't face anyone right now." "Hey, look at me." Eric's voice was soft but firm. I reluctantly met his gaze. "What Mike did was awful, but you can't let him win by hiding away. You're stronger than that." As much as I hated to admit it, Eric was right. I couldn't let Mike control my life anymore. Slowly, I began to reconnect with the world. But when I scrolled through social media, my heart sank. "That lying bastard," I exclaimed, nearly throwing my phone across the room. "What is it?" Eric asked, alarmed. I showed him the screen, my hands shaking. "Mike's been posting all these lies, saying I cheated on him, that I'm unstable, and people are believing him." Eric's expression darkened. "We need to do something about this, Sandra. This isn't just gossip, it's defamation. As we dug deeper, a disturbing pattern emerged. Mike hadn't just been spreading lies online, he'd been systematically sabotaging my life for months. I don't understand, I said, pacing the living room. How did he know about that job interview? I never told him I applied. Lily, who had been helping us investigate, looked up from her laptop. Sandra, I think he's been intercepting your mail. Look at this. She showed me a series of redirected mail requests, all in Mike's handwriting. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. He'd been stalking me, controlling my life from the shadows. That night, as Lily and I sat on the couch, the full weight of everything crashed down on me. I should have told you, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. The things he did, the things he said, I was so ashamed. You have nothing to be ashamed of, Lily said fiercely. He's the one who should be ashamed. As I poured out years of pent-up pain, detailing the emotional and verbal abuse I'd suffered at Mike's hands, Lily listened without judgment. For the first time, I felt the burden lighten. Over the next few days, we developed a plan. Eric reached out to a lawyer friend for advice, and Lily helped me document every instance of Mike's harassment. As we put the finishing touches on our plan, I felt a surge of empowerment. Mike had tried to break me, to control me, to erase the person I'd worked so hard to become. But he'd underestimated me, and now he was about to learn just how strong I really was. The day of our sting operation arrived, and my nerves were on edge. We'd set the trap carefully, orchestrating a fake job interview we knew Mike would try to sabotage. You ready for this? Eric asked, squeezing my hand reassuringly. I took a deep breath. As ready as I'll ever be. Lily and Jason were already in position, hidden cameras at the ready. I walked into the cafe where we'd arranged the interview, trying to act natural despite the butterflies in my stomach. Right on cue, Mike showed up, lurking in a corner booth. I pretended not to notice him as I greeted our plant, a friend posing as the interviewer. Halfway through the fake interview, Mike made his move. He approached our table, his face a mask of concern. Sandra, thank God I found you, he said, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. I can't let you go through with this interview. This company. Cut the crap, Mike, I interrupted, standing up. We know what you've been doing, the stalking, the lies, all of it. His face twisted with rage. You ungrateful, after everything I've done for you. That's when Lily and Jason emerged, cameras rolling. Several of our mutual friends, who we'd invited to witness the truth, stepped forward, shock and disgust etched across their faces. Mike realized he'd been caught. He tried to backpedal, but it was too late. His true colors were on full display. In the aftermath, armed with our evidence, I was granted a restraining order against Mike, but he couldn't let go. Within weeks, he violated it, showing up at my workplace. This time, there were real legal consequences. As Mike was led away in handcuffs, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. But life had more surprises in store. A few weeks later, I received an unexpected call from Horizon Publishing, a prestigious company I'd always dreamed of working for. We've been following your story, Sandra, the HR manager said. Your resilience and determination are exactly what we're looking for. We'd like to offer you a position as an assistant editor. I was speechless. After years of struggle, my career was finally taking off. 1 year later, I stood in my new office at Horizon, a framed photo of Eric and me on my desk. I had just wrapped up a major project, feeling more confident and empowered than ever before. My phone buzzed with a news alert, and I nearly dropped it when I saw the headline. Local man arrested for fraud and investment scheme. There was Mike's mugshot, looking haggard and defeated. He had tried to scam investors in a desperate get-rich-quick scheme and was now facing serious jail time. I sat back in my chair, a complex mix of emotions washing over me. Part of me felt vindicated, seeing Mike finally face consequences for his actions. But mostly I felt free. Mike no longer had any power over me or my life. That evening, as Eric and I walked hand in hand through the park near our new apartment, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. You know, I said, a few years ago, I never would have believed I could be this happy, this whole. Eric smiled. You did all the hard work, Sandra. I'm just glad I get to be part of your story now. As the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, I felt a profound sense of peace. The road hadn't been easy, but I'd emerged stronger, wiser, and surrounded by love. Mike had tried to write my story for me, casting me as the victim, but I'd taken back the pen. Now I was the author of my own life, and the next chapter, it was brighter than ever. The story of Sandra's triumph over her toxic ex-husband has come to an end. Now I have a question for you. Is it ever acceptable to forgive someone who has repeatedly manipulated and abused you? Or is cutting them out of your life completely the only way to truly heal? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hey, I'm Emma, a 32-year-old film director living the dream in Los Angeles. Right now, I'm standing in front of my closet, debating what to wear for my 5th wedding anniversary party. 5 years already, can you believe it? It feels like just yesterday that Michael and I were exchanging vows after our whirlwind romance. Babe, have you seen my diamond earrings? I call up to Michael. Check the top drawer where you always leave them, he replies, sounding a bit exasperated. I roll my eyes. Right, because I'm so forgetful. I mutter under my breath as I fish out the earrings. Catching my reflection in the mirror, I smile to myself. Not too bad for someone who spends more time behind a camera than in front of one. With a final deep breath, I smooth down my dress. Showtime. The doorbell rings and I hear Michael greeting the first guests. Plastering on my best hostess smile, I head downstairs. Emma, darling, you look absolutely stunning. My best friend Sophia air kisses my cheeks as she gushes. Thanks, Soph, I'm so glad you could make it. I spot Michael's mother, Vivian, scrutinizing the decor with her usual critical eye. Emma dear, don't you think these centerpieces are a bit garish? She asks. I bite back a retort and smile politely. I think they're lovely, Vivian, but thanks for the feedback. Michael slides up beside me, wrapping an arm around my waist. Mom, everything looks perfect. Emma's done an amazing job. His support comforts me, though I notice his grip tightening slightly as Vivian raises an eyebrow. As more guests arrive, including my parents and Michael's sister Rachel, I slip into hostess mode, laughing at the right moments, keeping glasses full, and ensuring the conversation flows smoothly. So, Emma, any new projects in the works? My dad's voice cuts through the chatter, pride evident in his tone. Actually, yes, I'm in talks to direct a new indie film. It's still early, but I'm really excited about it. That's wonderful, sweetheart, my mom chimes in. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Michael's jaw clench. We haven't exactly talked about this project yet, and I know he's not thrilled about the hours of demand. The atmosphere feels off. Maybe it's Vivian's constant whispering to Michael or the sympathetic glances Rachel keeps throwing my way. But I push those thoughts aside. It's our anniversary after all. Everything is perfect, right? The party's in full swing and I'm feeling good. Maybe it's the champagne, or maybe it's just the joy of having all our friends and family here. Either way, it's time to cut the cake. Michael, honey, let's cut the cake. I call out, giggling as I approach the elegantly decorated cake. Michael weaves through the crowd toward me, but before I can pick up the knife, Vivian's voice cuts through the noise. Wait just a moment. We have a family tradition for this. Let's do it properly. I roll my eyes, feeling emboldened by the bubbly warmth. Oh, come on, Vivian. It's just cake. Without waiting, I grab the knife and playfully slice a small piece. The next thing I know, there's a sharp crack and stinging pain flashes across my face. The room goes eerily silent. It takes a second for me to realize what just happened. Michael, my husband, slapped me in front of everyone. My cheek burns, but the humiliation is far worse. I feel the weight of everyone's eyes on me, the collective gasp echoing in the room. Without a word, I turn and run, barely hearing Sophia call my name as she follows. Upstairs in our bedroom, I collapse and Sophia wraps her arms around me as I break down. Emma, oh my God. Are you okay? I can't believe he did that. I don't know what happened, I stammer, still in shock. Sophia's voice turns firm. Emma, listen to me. This isn't okay. You need to leave him. This isn't the first time he's been controlling. You know it. I hear raised voices from downstairs. My dad's fury cuts through the murmur. How dare you put your hands on my daughter? I bury my face in my hands. This can't be happening. It's all a misunderstanding, right? Sophia's phone buzzes. She glances at it, her face hardening. It's a text from Rachel. She says you won't believe this. Vivian's actually praising Michael for what he did. She's recording it. I feel sick. How did everything go so wrong so fast? Emma, Sophia says gently, you don't have to go back down there. We can leave. Right now. But I shake my head. No, I need to fix this. It was just a misunderstanding. Despite Sophia's protests, I reapply my makeup, carefully covering the red mark on my cheek. I force a smile, though it feels like it's cracking at the edges, and head back downstairs. The party is still going, but the atmosphere is thick with tension. I hear whispers, catch sideways glances, but I push through. Everything's fine, I announce, my voice only slightly shaky. Just had a little too much champagne, that's all. I spend the rest of the night in a daze, playing the perfect hostess, laughing at jokes and refilling glasses, all while avoiding Michael's eyes. When the last guest finally leaves, I slip upstairs and collapse into bed, feigning a headache to avoid talking to him. Now I'm lying here, wide awake, replaying not just tonight but the past few years, the times Michael would joke at my expense in front of others. How he always seemed to know where I was and who I was with, and how Vivian was always there, hovering, criticizing, pushing. I roll over, burying my face in the pillow. It was just a mistake, right? He didn't mean it. He loves me, doesn't he? Weeks have passed since the party, and I've thrown myself into work, trying to bury the memory of that night. I've been avoiding calls from Sophia and my parents, making excuses about being too busy with a new project. It's easier than facing the truth. Emma, we need to go over these storyboards. Jack, the new producer, says as he walks into my office. I look up, startled. Oh right, sorry, I was lost in thought. Jack smiles, and for the first time in weeks, I feel seen. No worries. How about we grab some coffee and go through them? As we work, I find myself relaxing. Jack actually listens to my ideas, values my input. It's refreshing. Then my phone buzzes. Sophia again. I silence it quickly. Everything okay? Jack asks, concern in his eyes. I force a smile. Yeah, just personal stuff. Later that day, I finally cave and call Sophia back. Emma, thank God, she says as soon as she answers. We need to talk. Can you meet me? There's something in her voice that makes me agree. An hour later, I'm sitting across from Sophia and Rachel in a quiet cafe, my stomach in knots. Emma, we found some things, Sophia starts, her voice soft. Rachel, show her. Rachel slides a folder across the table toward me. I'm so sorry, Emma, but you need to see this. My hands tremble as I open the folder. Financial records, emails, photos. My world starts spinning. He's been embezzling from your company, Sophia says gently. And that's not all. Rachel pulls out her phone and plays an audio recording. I hear Michael's voice, followed by Vivian's. We need to get control of her assets before she catches on, Michael says. Once the divorce is final. I feel like I'm going to be sick. Divorce? But Rachel's face is full of sympathy, and I know there's more. He's been having an affair, she says quietly, with his assistant. The cafe suddenly feels too small, the walls closing in. I stumble out onto the street, Sophia and Rachel right behind me. Emma, breathe, Sophia says, grabbing my shoulders. I know it's a lot, but we're here for you. As the shock begins to wear off, anger rises in its place. How long have you known? I ask, my voice unsteady. We started digging after the party, Rachel admits. I couldn't stand by any longer, not after what he did. I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself. What else? They exchange glances before Sophia speaks. Vivian's been spreading rumors. Trying to ruin your reputation in the industry. I laugh bitterly. Of course she has. Rachel hesitates, her voice soft. There's something else, Emma. Michael. He's planning to file for divorce. He wants control of everything you've built. I feel like I've been punched in the gut again, but beneath the pain, there's something else, determination. No, I say, my voice firmer than I feel. No, he's not going to take anything from me, not anymore. Sophia squeezes my hand. What do you want to do? I straighten up, meeting their eyes. I want to fight back. I want to protect myself, my career, everything I've worked for, and I want Michael to pay for what he's done. Rachel nods. We're with you, Emma, all the way. As we start to plan our next move, a strange mix of emotions floods through me. Yes, I'm devastated, but I'm also angry. For the first time in a long time, I feel powerful. Michael thinks he can destroy me? Let him try. I'm done being the victim in this story. It's time to write my own ending. For weeks, I've been working nonstop, setting my plan into motion. Late nights with lawyers, secret meetings with my parents, and endless preparation for tonight's gala. My hands tremble as I adjust my dress, knowing what's about to unfold. You ready for this? Sophia asks, squeezing my hand. I take a deep breath. As ready as I'll ever be. We step into the gala, and I spot Michael and Vivian almost immediately. They're working the room, all smiles and charm. If only everyone knew the truth. Emma, darling. Michael calls out, his voice dripping with false sweetness. Come, let me introduce you to the Spielbergs. I plaster on a smile. In a minute, honey. I need to prepare for my announcement. As I make my way toward the stage, I catch Rachel's eye. She gives me a subtle nod. Everything is in place. Ladies and gentlemen, I begin, my voice steady despite the rapid beating of my heart. I'm thrilled to announce my latest project. It's a story about truth, justice, and the masks we wear. I pause, glancing at Michael's smug expression. He thinks this is just another career move. But tonight, it's so much more. Before I tell you about the film, I continue. I'd like to share a different story. My story. The lights dim, and a video begins to play. Gasps ripple through the room as footage of Michael's abuse fills the screen. His face twists in fury as he realizes his private misdeeds are now laid bare for all to see. What is this? He shouts, his voice full of rage. But his outburst is drowned out by Vivian's recorded scheming. The audience watches in shock as financial records flash across the screen, followed by testimonials from former employees. Michael and Vivian try to push through the crowd, desperate to flee, but they're met at the exit by police officers. Michael Thompson, you're under arrest for embezzlement and domestic abuse, an officer announces as he cuffs him. Vivian shrieks, you can't do this. Do you know who we are? But her protests fall on deaf ears as they're both led away. The room erupts in chaos. Reporters clamor for statements, industry power players express their shock and support. And through it all, I stand tall, finally free from the weight of secrets and lies. In the days that follow, my phone doesn't stop ringing. Interviews, messages of support, even job offers pour in. But what I cherish most are the quiet moments with Sophia, Rachel, and my parents. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart, my mom says, hugging me tightly. Weeks turn into months, and I throw myself into my new film, surrounded by a crew that respects and supports me. The healing process is slow, but each day, I feel stronger. Cut. That's a wrap on scene 12. I call out, grinning at my team as we break for lunch. My phone buzzes. It's a message from Michael, currently awaiting trial. Another tearful apology, begging for forgiveness. Without hesitation, I delete it. That chapter of my life is closed. Hey Emma, Jack calls out, waving a script. Got a minute to go over these rewrites? I smile, feeling genuinely happy for the first time in years. Absolutely. As we walk together, discussing ideas, I realize something profound. My happily ever after isn't about finding the perfect partner or having a flawless life. It's about being true to myself, surrounded by people who genuinely care. The sun is setting as we finish for the day, and I look around at my crew, my friends, my chosen family. This is where I belong. This is my story, and I'm writing every page. All right, team, I say, clapping my hands. Let's get ready for tomorrow. We've got a movie to make. As we pack up, laughing and chatting, I feel a sense of peace wash over me. The future is bright, and this time, I'm in control. And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. The story has come to an end, but now I have a question for you. If you were in Emma's shoes, would you have exposed Michael and Vivian publicly at the gala, or handled the situation privately? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences and opinions matter, and they could help someone in a similar situation. If you found Emma's journey powerful, don't forget to hit that like button. And for more stories of triumph over adversity, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and remember, your story isn't over yet. Hey there, I'm Akasa. I'm 32, crushing it at my law firm, and married to Derek, who I once thought was the man of my dreams. On the surface, life seemed perfect. But then came the in-laws. Let me tell you about the family I married into. It was one of those dreaded monthly dinners at Derek's parents' place. From the moment we walked in, I felt like I was tiptoeing over landmines. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Acacia, dear, my mother-in-law, Martha greeted me with that signature, tight-lipped smile. I see you're wearing pants again. Don't you own any dresses? Her words dripped with disapproval. I forced a smile. I came straight from work, Martha. Big case. From the armchair, Derek's father, Robert, grunted. Work, work, work. When are you two going to start thinking about giving us grandchildren? Derek stiffened beside me. Dad, we've talked about this. We're focusing on our careers right now. And then, like clockwork, Derek's sister Emma burst into the room, her voice a little too chipper. Hey, everyone. Acacia, love your top. Is it new? Something about Emma's constant perkiness always set me on edge. She was nice enough, sure, but something was always off. As we moved to the dining room, I couldn't help but notice the display cabinet crammed with glittering heirlooms. Martha caught me looking. Beautiful, aren't they? These pieces have been in the family for generations. Of course they'll go to Emma one day. Family tradition, you understand. Her tone was sweet, but the message was clear. I wasn't truly part of this family. Dinner was no better. The subtle, and not so subtle, digs kept coming. Martha managed to spill wine all over my white blouse. Robert questioned every career choice I'd ever made, and Emma just kept throwing me these strange, almost guilty glances. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, Derek and I were driving home. That wasn't so bad, right? He asked, ever oblivious. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Are you serious? Your mom basically called me a bad wife. Your dad thinks I'm obsessed with my career. And don't even get me started on Emma's fake compliments. Derek sighed, shaking his head. You're overreacting. They're just traditional. Give it time. I had given it time, 3 years in fact. Something had to give. The next morning, I met up with my best friend Zoe for coffee. Girl, you won't believe the night I had, I vented, diving into the whole disaster. Zoe listened, her eyes widening with every detail. Acacia, this isn't normal, she said, her voice steady but serious. The way they treat you, it's not okay. I nodded, swallowing a lump in my throat. I know, but what can I do? They're Derek's family. Family or not, you don't deserve this, Zoe insisted. And you said Emma was acting strange. You think something's up with her? I paused, thinking it over. Now that you mention it, yeah, she seemed nervous, and I could have sworn I heard her arguing with Martha in the kitchen about money. Zoe leaned in, lowering her voice. Keep your eyes open, Acacia. I've got a feeling there's more going on here than just family drama. As I left the coffee shop, I couldn't shake the feeling she was right. I had no idea just how right she was. I was knee-deep in depositions the next day when everything came crashing down. One moment, I was highlighting witness statements, and the next, my office door flew open like something out of a bad courtroom drama. There stood Martha, her face red with fury, storming toward my desk. Behind her trailed Robert, Emma, and Derek, whose face was ghostly pale. There she is, the thief, Martha's voice rang out, echoing through the room. I blinked, completely thrown. Excuse me? I managed to get out, my mind racing. Martha slammed her hands on my desk, sending papers flying. Don't play dumb, Acacia. We know you took the family jewels. My jaw dropped. What? I didn't take anything. By now, a small crowd had gathered outside my office, colleagues whispering, their eyes wide with curiosity. Robert stepped forward, his voice low and menacing. We trusted you, let you into our home. And this is how you repay us? By stealing our heirlooms? I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. I swear, I don't know what you're talking about. I would never. Save it, Martha screeched, cutting me off. Who else would have access? Who else would know their value? I turned to Derek, desperate, hoping, begging for him to defend me. But he just stood there, silent and useless. Derek, I pleaded, tell them this is insane. You know I'd never do this. He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Mom, Dad, maybe we should talk about this at home, he said, his weak response feeling like a slap in the face. Emma, who had been suspiciously quiet until now, finally spoke up. We just want the jewelry back, Acacia. If you return it, maybe we can forget this whole thing. I stared at her, dumbfounded. I can't return what I don't have. I didn't take anything. Before I could say more, my boss, Mr. Jacobson, stepped in. I think it's time everyone calmed down. This is a place of business, not a courtroom. As security escorted Derek's family out, I could still hear Martha's shrill voice echoing down the hallway. "We'll go to the police. You won't get away with this." The aftermath was brutal. Whispers followed me everywhere. Colleagues who once respected me now looked at me with suspicion and pity. I could feel their eyes on me, questioning everything. Later that evening, back at our apartment, the fight I knew was coming finally exploded. "How could you just stand there?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. "Why didn't you defend me?" Derek ran his hands through his hair, clearly frustrated. "What was I supposed to do, Acacia? They're my family. And I'm your wife," I snapped. "Or does that mean nothing to you?" He sighed, the sound heavy with exhaustion. "Of course it does. But you have to admit, it looks bad. The jewelry goes missing, and you're the only outsider. Whoa." I cut him off, furious. "Outsider? Is that what I am to you?" "To them. After 3 years of marriage." "That's not what I meant," he backpedaled. "I'm just saying from their perspective." "Their perspective is wrong," I snapped. "And the fact that you're even entertaining the idea that I might be guilty, I can't believe this." That night, as I lay in bed, unable to sleep, my mind raced. Something wasn't adding up. The timing of the accusation, the way Emma had been acting at dinner, it was all too convenient. I grabbed my phone and fired off a text to Zoe. "You were right. Something weird is going on with Derek's family. I need your help." Her response came almost instantly. "I'm on it. We'll figure this out, AK. No one messes with my girl and gets away with it." For the first time in days, I felt a glimmer of hope. I didn't know what was really going on. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going down without a fight. Someone was trying to set me up, and I was going to find out who and why, if it was the last thing I did. The next few days were a blur of whispers and sideways glances at work. The weight of suspicion was suffocating. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Is this Acacia? It's Lily, Emma's friend. We need to talk. It's about the jewelry." My heart raced. When and where? We met at a quiet cafe across town. Lily looked nervous, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "Emma's in trouble, Acacia," she whispered. "She's the one who took the jewelry." I leaned in, barely breathing. "What? Why?" Lily's voice dropped even lower. "She's been using drugs. It started with pills, but now, it's bad. She needed money for her dealer." My mind reeled. But why blame me? "Martha found out," Lily explained, her voice trembling. She was furious, but more worried about the family's reputation. "So they decided to pin it on you." I felt sick. "Do you have any proof?" Lily nodded and slid an envelope across the table. Inside were photos of Emma at a pawn shop and text messages about drug deals. "I'm sorry," Lily said, tears welling in her eyes. "I should have come forward sooner, but I was scared. I didn't want to betray Emma, but this isn't right." I left the cafe in a daze, my mind spinning. I had to confront Derek. Back at our apartment, I laid everything out in front of him. Lily's confession, the photos, the texts. Derek's face went pale. "This can't be true." "Emma wouldn't." "Wake up, Derek," I said, my voice cold. "Your precious family isn't as perfect as you think. Your sister needs help, and your mother, she's protecting her at my expense." Derek slumped onto the couch, his head in his hands. "I don't know what to say." "How about, 'I'm sorry for not believing you, Acacia,' or 'I'll stand by you and help clear your name'?" He looked away, unable to meet my eyes. Zoe and I spent the next day gathering every shred of evidence we could. We tracked down the pawn shop owner, got security footage, and even found Emma's dealer, who was more than happy to talk once we mentioned the possibility of a reduced sentence. With everything in place, I called Derek. "Family meeting tonight. Everyone needs to be there." "Acacia, I don't think. This isn't a request, Derek. Be there or don't bother coming home." That evening, the tension in Derek's parents' living room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Martha glared at me, her eyes full of venom, while Robert shifted uncomfortably. Emma wouldn't look at anyone. "What's this about, Acacia?" Martha snapped. "Come to confess." I took a deep breath. "Actually, I'm here to clear my name and to help Emma." Emma's head snapped up, panic flooding her eyes as I began laying out everything. The photos, the text messages, the pawn shop receipts, one by one. I presented the evidence. With each piece, the color drained from Martha's face. Emma's been struggling with addiction, I said gently. She took the jewelry to pay for drugs. Derek looked like he'd been punched in the gut. Emma, is this true? His voice was barely above a whisper. Emma broke down into sobs. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I never wanted this. Robert shot to his feet, his face crimson with rage. You knew about this, he bellowed at Martha. Martha's carefully composed mask cracked. I was trying to protect her, to protect our family name. By destroying mine, I shot back, my voice trembling with controlled anger. By accusing me of theft. Derek finally found his voice. Mom, how could you? And Emma, why didn't you come to us for help? Emma's sobs deepened. I was ashamed, scared. Then it spiraled out of control. The room exploded into chaos. Accusations, apologies, and blame ricocheted through the air. But I stood firm, cutting through the storm with a clear, steady voice. Emma needs help, real help, and all of you need to take a long, hard look at yourselves. As the dust settled, Derek turned to me, his eyes filled with remorse. Acacia, I am so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have stood by you. I nodded, my heart heavy but not yet ready to forgive. Yes, you should have. The next few months were a whirlwind. Emma entered rehab, facing the consequences of her actions, but also getting the help she desperately needed. Martha and Robert started family therapy, unraveling years of enabling behavior and misplaced priorities. As for me, I threw myself into my work, rebuilding my reputation with the truth finally out. My colleagues, once suspicious, now rallied around me. 6 months after that fateful family meeting, I made partner at the firm. Derek and I, well, that was complicated. We were in counseling, slowly working through the breach of trust. Some days were better than others. I'm proud of you, he said one evening, his voice soft as we sat in the quiet of our apartment. The way you handled everything. You're incredible. I smiled, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in months. Thanks, I'm proud of me too. We were taking it day by day, rebuilding our relationship on a foundation of honesty this time. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. As for Martha and Robert, our relationship was civil but distant. They were trying. I'll give them that. But some wounds take longer to heal than others. Looking back, I realized how close I'd come to losing myself in their lives. But I stood my ground, fought for the truth, and came out stronger. If I've learned anything from this, it's that the truth always finds a way out. And when it does, you better make sure you're on the right side of it, because in the end, your integrity is all you've got. Everything else, just noise. Now let's step back for a moment. Imagine yourself in Acacia's shoes. Your spouse's family falsely accuses you of a crime, and your partner fails to defend you. Where would you draw the line? Is there a way back from such a betrayal, or would this mark the end of the relationship? Family loyalty versus marital commitment, the challenge of addiction within families, the lengths people will go to protect their reputation. Navigating these waters is anything but simple. Would you fight to clear your name like Acacia did, or would you walk away? Is forgiveness possible after such a profound breach of trust? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story resonated with you, please like the video and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Your support helps us continue sharing intense, real-life inspired narratives. We look forward to reading your responses and engaging in this important discussion.
Hey there, I'm Alex Martinez. A scrawny kid from the south side of Chicago with big dreams and an even bigger mouth. Yeah, that was me. Always up to something, always hatching a new plan. My old man, Robert, would just shake his head and sigh. Alex, when are you going to get serious about life? He'd ask, but I knew I was onto something. While my classmates buried themselves in textbooks, I was in my garage, tinkering with gadgets and dreaming up ways to make life easier. College? I gave it a shot for 2 years before realizing it wasn't for me. You're making a huge mistake, Robert growled when I told him I was dropping out. Trust me, Dad, I've got a plan. And that's when Smart Haven was born, right there in my garage. My baby, my ticket to the big leagues. Family dinners got real tense after that. Robert would give me the stink eye over his pot roast, Karen, my stepmom. try to keep the peace, and Ethan, my younger stepbrother, would sit there with this smug little smile, like he'd won some competition I didn't even know I was in. "How's the business going, Alex?" He'd ask, all fake concern. "It's going, Ethan. Thanks for asking." Fast forward 6 years, and Smart Haven is blowing up. Multi-million-dollar contracts, features in tech magazines, you name it. Buyout offers rolled in left and right. "Mr. Martinez, we're prepared to offer." "Thanks, but no thanks. Smart Haven's not for sale." I was on top of the world. And then I got that call from Robert. "Alex, we need to have a family meeting. It's urgent." Something in his voice made my stomach twist. This wasn't going to be good. "All right, Dad. When and where?" "Tomorrow evening. At the house." The next day, I pulled up to the old house, my stomach in knots. The moment I stepped inside, the tension hit me like a wall. Robert, Karen, Ethan, and Uncle Mike. What the hell was he doing here? "Glad you could make it, son," Robert said, his voice dripping with fake warmth. "Cut the crap, Dad. What's this about?" I snapped. Robert cleared his throat. "Alex, we've been talking, and we think it's time for you to sell Smart Haven." I laughed. "You're joking, right?" "We're dead serious," Ethan chimed in. "It's for the best, bro." "Best for who? You?" I shot back. Robert leaned forward, his tone cold. "Half the proceeds will go to Ethan. He's more deserving. He finished college. He's got a proper career." "Proper career?" "He's a middle manager at a failing company." "Now, Alex," Uncle Mike cut in. "Let's keep things civil." "Civil," I scoffed. "You want me to just hand over my company to Thiz?" Ethan's face reddened. "Watch it, Alex. You're not the only smart one in this family." "Could have fooled me," I shot back. Robert slammed his hand on the table. "That's enough, Alex. You're selling. End of discussion." "Or what?" "Or I'll disown you. And don't forget, I've got some interesting information about Smart Haven's early days." My blood ran cold. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me, son," Robert hissed. Karen finally spoke up. "Robert, maybe we should." "Stay out of this, Karen," he barked. I turned to Ethan. "And you're okay with this, taking what I built?" He shrugged, trying to look conflicted. "It's what's best for the family, Alex." "This isn't about family. This is about you being jealous," I shot back. Robert stood up, towering over me. "You have 24 hours to agree, or I'm going public with what I know." "Go to hell, old man," I spat, storming out of the house and slamming the door behind me. As I reached for my car keys, I caught voices through the open window. "Don't worry, Ethan. If he doesn't play ball, we've got our backup plan," Robert said. "You sure it'll work, Dad?" Ethan asked. "Trust me, son. One way or another, Smart Haven will be yours." My stomach turned. My own family plotting against me. As I drove away, my mind raced. What was their backup plan? And how the hell was I going to get out of this mess? One thing was clear. I couldn't trust any of them. Not Robert, not Karen, and definitely not Ethan. They'd shown their true colors, and there was no going back. I burst into Mia's office, my thoughts spinning. "You're not going to believe this, Mia," I said, breathless. She looked up from her computer, concern etched on her face. "Spill it, Alex. What's going on?" I paced back and forth, recounting the nightmare family meeting. Mia's eyes widened with each detail. "They want you to do what? Are they out of their minds?" "Apparently. And get this, they are threatening to reveal some damaging information about Smart Haven's early days." Mia frowned, leaning forward. "What information?" I shook my head. "I don't know. Had a feeling about what Robert and Ethan might be up to, and I knew we had to get ahead of it. We need to get some dirt on them," Mia agreed. I know a guy, ex-cop turned PI. He's discreet and thorough. I nodded. Do it. Meanwhile, I'll keep an eye on our operations. Something feels off. Over the next few days, things went from bad to worse. Negative reviews flooded our website, all suspiciously similar. Alex, check this out. Mia called from her desk, her face tense. Tech giant just pulled out of our deal. What? Why? I demanded. They claimed they heard concerning rumors about our business practices. I slammed my fist on the desk. It's them. It's got to be. Just then, Mia's phone buzzed. It's the PI. He's got something. We huddled over her phone, listening intently. With each revelation, my jaw dropped further. Holy. I whispered as we ended the call. Ethan's got a gambling problem. Mia nodded grimly. He owes big money to some dangerous people, and Robert's been cooking the books at his company to cover for him. As for that damaging information, it's fake. Ethan doctored some documents to give Robert leverage. I leaned back, processing everything. They're desperate, Mia. They're trying to steal Smart Haven because they're broke. So, what's our play, Alex? A grin crept across my face as a plan formed. We fight fire with fire. First, we secure that contract with Megacorp. That'll make us untouchable. Mia raised an eyebrow. And then we confront them with everything we know. For the next week, we worked around the clock, damage control, reassuring clients, and pushing hard for the Megacorp deal. Finally, the day came. I stood in the conference room, heart pounding, as the Megacorp execs filed in. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Let's talk about the future of home automation. 2 hours later, I emerged victorious. The biggest contract in Smart Haven's history signed and sealed. Mia was waiting outside. Well, I couldn't pull back my grin. We did it, Mia. We did it. She pulled me into a hug. I never doubted you for a second, Alex. As we celebrated, my phone buzzed with a text from Robert. Time's up, son. Decision. I looked at Mia, determination in my eyes. It's time to end this. What are you going to do? She asked. I'm calling another family meeting, but this time I'm setting the rules. I fired off a reply. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. my office. Be there. As I hit send, I felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. Tomorrow, everything would change, and I was ready for it. The conference room felt like a pressure cooker as Robert, Karen, and Ethan filed in. Mia stood beside me, a silent pillar of support. All right, Alex, Robert growled. We're here. Now, what's this about? I leaned forward, my voice steady. It's about the truth, Dad. The whole truth. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. What are you talking about, bro? I pulled out a folder and slapped it on the table. I'm talking about your gambling debts, Ethan, and Dad's creative accounting to cover them up. The color drained from their faces. Karen gasped. Robert, what is he talking about? Lies. All lies. Robert sputtered, but his eyes darted nervously. I turned to Karen. I'm sorry, but it's true. Ethan's in debt to some dangerous people, and Dad's been embezzling from his company to pay them off. Karen's voice trembled. Is this true, Robert? Robert slammed his fist on the table. Enough, Alex. I'm warning you. Warning me about what, Dad? You're damaging information. You mean these. I tossed another file on the table. Fake documents, courtesy of Ethan. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Ethan jumped up. You can't prove any of this. Just then, a knock came at the door. 2 police officers stepped in. Actually, he can, one of them said. Robert Martinez, you're under arrest for embezzlement. As they cuffed Robert, chaos erupted. Karen broke down, sobbing. Ethan tried to make a run for it, but was quickly apprehended, while Robert kept shouting about family loyalty. I stood there, watching it all unfold, feeling a mix of vindication and sadness. This was my family. At least it used to be. As the dust settled, Karen approached me, her eyes red and swollen. Alexed I had no idea. What happens now? I sighed, the weight of it all settling on my shoulders. That's up to you, Karen. But if you need help, financially or otherwise, I'm here, I said. She nodded, then hesitated. And our relationship? I met her eyes. It'll never be the same, I admitted, but maybe, with time, we can build something new. As they all left, Robert and Ethan in cuffs, Karen in tears, Mia put a hand on my shoulder. You okay? I took a deep breath. Yeah, I think I am. 6 months flew by in a blur of success and growth. Smart Haven's value skyrocketed, and there I was, gracing the cover of Tech Innovator magazine. Look at you, big shot, Mia teased, waving the magazine. I grinned. Couldn't have done it without you, partner. We were celebrating in the office when my phone buzzed with a news alert. Robert Martinez sentenced in embezzlement case. Mia noticed my expression. You all right? I nodded slowly. Yeah, it's just strange, you know. They're not my family anymore, but it still hurts, she finished for me. Yeah, but you know what? I've realized something. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who stand by you, who believe in you. I looked around at our team, laughing and celebrating, and then at Mia, my rock through all of this. This is my family now, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Mia raised her glass. To family, the ones we choose. As our glasses clinked, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The road had been tough, but I'd come out stronger. Smart Haven was thriving, free from toxic influences, and me, I was finally free too. So, boss, Mia said with a grin, what's next? Next for Smart Haven? I smiled, excitement bubbling up for the first time in a long while. Sky's the limit, Mia. Sky's the limit. And so, the story of my struggle against a toxic past and rise to success came to an end. But now I've got a question for you. If you were in my shoes, would you have offered financial support to Karen after everything that happened, or would you have cut ties completely with everyone involved? It's a tough call. On one hand, Karen wasn't directly involved in the scheme, but on the other, she turned a blind eye to Robert and Ethan's behavior for years. What would you do in this situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear your take. And hey, if you enjoyed the story and want to hear more like it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep bringing you these engaging stories. Thanks for watching.
Hey there, I'm Cassandra, and I've got a story that'll leave your head spinning. I'm a 30-year-old elementary school teacher, married to Michael for 5 years. We've been trying for a baby, forever, it feels like, but no luck? It's been a tough road, let me tell you. Cass, maybe we should consider other options, Michael said one night, his voice soft but serious. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of hope and fear. You mean adoption? He smiled, squeezing my hand. Yeah, what do you think? My heart raced. I think it's perfect. The next day, I'm having coffee with my best friend, Olivia. She's a social worker, so she knows the ins and outs of adoption. So, you're really going through with it? Olivia asked, eyes wide. We are, I said, grinning. But there's just one problem. Olivia groaned. Let me guess. Victor? Ah, Victor. My father-in-law, the bane of my existence. If migraines had a human form, it'd be him. He's obsessed with carrying on the family name. I mimicked his pompous tone. When are you two having grandkids? I swear, he asks us every time we see him. Just then, my phone buzzed. Speak of the devil. Cassandra. Victor's voice boomed through the speaker. When are you and Michael coming over for dinner? We need to discuss the family's future. I rolled my eyes at Olivia. We'll be there, Victor. Actually, we have some news to share. After I hung up, Olivia looked worried. Are you sure you want to tell him about the adoption? I sighed. We have to. Better to rip off the band-aid, right? Later, as Michael and I were getting ready for the dreaded dinner, his sister Rebecca called. Good luck, she said. Dad's in rare form today. He's been going on about bloodlines all day. Michael glanced at me, concern in his eyes. Maybe we should wait. I shook my head. No, we need to do this. We can't let your dad control our lives. Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself. This dinner could change everything, but no matter what Victor said, I knew in my heart we were making the right choice. Ready? Michael asked, keys in hand. I nodded. Ready as I'll ever be. The big family dinner felt like walking to my own execution. Michael squeezed my hand as we walked in, but it didn't ease my nerves. As usual, Victor dominated the conversation. The Johnsons next door just had their third, he said between bites. Now that is a family, carrying on a legacy. I couldn't take it anymore. Actually, Victor, we have some news, I said, my voice firm. Michael nodded, taking a deep breath. Mom, Dad, we decided to adopt. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then all hell broke loose. Adopt? Victor roared, slamming his fist on the table. Have you lost your minds? No grandchild of mine will be some stray picked up off the street. Dad, please, Michael began, but Victor cut him off. This is your doing, isn't it? Victor pointed at me, his eyes blazing with fury. Poisoning my son with this nonsense about adoption. What about our bloodline? Our legacy? I stood, my body shaking with anger. A child isn't a pedigree dog, Victor. Love makes a family, not DNA. Victor's face turned an alarming shade of purple. Get out, he hissed. Get out of my house, you family-wrecking witch. I looked at Michael, hoping, begging for him to say something, but he just sat there, eyes down, silent. Michael, I whispered, but he wouldn't look at me. I said get out, Victor bellowed, grabbing my arm. I yanked myself free, but as I moved toward the door, Victor slammed it shut on my fingers, sending a wave of searing pain through my hand. Still, Michael didn't move. My heart shattered as I stumbled outside. Suddenly, I felt a hard shove from behind. I tried to catch myself, but it was too late. I tumbled down the front steps, pain exploding through my body as I hit the ground. Through the haze, I heard screaming. Victor, what have you done? It was Elena's voice, shrill with panic. Rebecca was at my side in an instant. Cass, oh my God, are you okay? I tried to sit up. Everything hurts, I mumbled, barely conscious. Where's Michael? Through the haze, I could see his shocked face framed in the doorway, still standing inside, unmoving. The next few hours blurred together, a whirlwind of hospital rooms, police questions, and endless waiting. X-rays revealed a sprained wrist and some nasty bruises, but no broken bones. Small mercies, I suppose. Michael finally showed up, pale and shaken. Cass, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Dad, I cut him off, my voice cold. Save it, Michael. You stood there and did nothing while your father assaulted me. I don't want to hear it. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I think you should go. The days that followed were rough. I stayed with Olivia, unable to face going home. Michael called and texted constantly, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. You need to report this, Olivia urged. Victor can't get away with what he did. I shook my head. It's my word against his. And you saw how Michael reacted. They'll probably back up whatever story Victor comes up with. That's when Victor's neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, knocked on the door. I heard what happened, he said, holding out his phone. I think you need to see this. There, on his security camera footage, was the truth. Victor shoving me down the stairs. I felt a wave of relief and dread. Finally, there was proof. But now I had a decision to make. As I stared at the footage, one thing became crystal clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. The days after the incident were like walking through a fog. I stayed at Olivia's place, unable to face going home. Michael's calls shifted from frequent to occasional, each one more distant than the last. Cass, you need to come home, he said during one call. Dad's really sorry. He wants to apologize. I scoffed. Apologize? He shoved me down the stairs, Michael. He says it was an accident. Maybe if I hadn't provoked him. I hung up, feeling sick to my stomach. Olivia found me crying on the couch later. That's it, she said, fire in her eyes. We're digging into Victor's past. This can't be the first time he's pulled something like this. We spent days combing through public records and making calls. What we uncovered was chilling. 3 domestic disturbance calls at their old address, Olivia read aloud. All mysteriously dropped. I shook my head, disbelieving. How does he keep getting away with this? Money and influence, Olivia sighed. But there's more. I called a friend at the adoption agency. Victor's been sniffing around, asking about ways to disqualify applicants. My blood ran cold. He was trying to sabotage our adoption. That was the last straw. I marched over to the house, my house, and found Michael there. What's going on, Michael? Why are you letting your father control our lives? Michael wouldn't meet my eyes. You don't understand, Cass. Family is everything to Dad. He just wants what's best. Best? I exploded. He assaulted me, and now he's trying to stop us from adopting. That's not true, Michael muttered, his voice growing defensive. You're blowing things out of proportion. I stared at him, the man I thought I knew suddenly a stranger. Who are you? What happened to the man I married? Michael's face hardened. Maybe that man finally grew up, realized the importance of family legacy. Legacy, I scoffed. Is that what we're calling abuse now? You know what? Michael snapped. I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce. The world stopped. A divorce? Dad's right. We want different things. And frankly, I'm tired of your lies about him. I left in a daze, barely able to comprehend how my life had fallen apart so spectacularly. The next day, Rebecca showed up at Olivia's, looking nervous. I found something, she whispered, handing me a flash drive. Dad's been intervening in family matters for years, sabotaging relationships, controlling inheritances, all to protect the bloodline. I scrolled through the files, my horror growing with each new revelation. Rebecca, how long have you known? She looked away. Too long. I'm sorry, Cass. I should have said something sooner. As she left, I felt a spark of determination ignite within me. Victor had controlled this family for too long. It was time to stop him. I turned to Olivia. I need your help. We're going to expose Victor. We can't let him hurt anyone else. Olivia grinned. I thought you'd never ask. What's the plan? As we started plotting, I felt stronger than I had in weeks. Victor thought he had broken me, but he had no idea what was coming. Game on, old man, game on. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of secret meetings and late-night planning sessions. Olivia, Rebecca, and I operated like a covert team, gathering every shred of evidence we could find on Victor's reign of terror. Okay, let's review, Olivia said one night, spreading papers across her living room floor. We've got the security cam footage of the assault, Rebecca's files on Victor's past interventions, and statements from 3 former employees about his controlling behavior. I nodded, feeling a mix of dread and determination. But we need something current, something that shows he's still at it. Rebecca's eyes lit up. I've got an idea. What if we set up a fake adoption agency? One that Victor would definitely try to bribe. And just like that, Operation Takedown Victor was born. We rented an office and set up shop, with Olivia playing the role of the agency's director. It didn't take long for Victor to come sniffing around. I'm concerned about my son and daughter-in-law's application, he said, his tone dripping with fake concern. I have some information that might be relevant to their suitability. Olivia played her part perfectly. Oh, and what kind of information would that be, Mr. Thompson? Olivia asked, her voice cool and professional. Victor leaned in, lowering his voice as if sharing some dark secret. Let's just say I'm willing to make a sizable donation to ensure the right decision is made. Gotcha, you old snake, I thought, hiding my satisfaction. With the bribery attempt now recorded, we were ready for the final act. Victor was hosting a large family gathering where he planned to announce Michael's promotion within the family business. It was the perfect stage for our little drama. As Victor stood to make his speech, I glanced at Rebecca and gave her a nod. She clicked a button, and the large screen behind Victor flickered to life. First, the footage of Victor shoving me down the stairs played for everyone to see. Gasps filled the room. Then the video cut to him trying to bribe our fake adoption agency. Finally, a montage of testimonies from people he had hurt over the years played, each story more damning than the last. The room erupted into chaos. Victor's face went from confusion to fury, and then panic. This is all lies, he bellowed, his voice shaking with rage. Michael, tell them this isn't true. But Michael just stood there, frozen, looking utterly shell-shocked. For once, he had no words. That's when Elena, Victor's wife, did something no one expected. She stood up, walked over to me, and took my hand. "No more, Victor," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "I won't let you hurt anyone else." The aftermath was intense. Domestic violence organizations and adoption agencies quickly picked up the story. Victor's reputation was shattered, and he was facing serious legal consequences for his actions. Michael didn't fare much better. Once people found out he had stood by while his father assaulted me, the court of public opinion turned on him hard. As for me, well, life has a funny way of working out. 1 year later, I'm sitting in the backyard of my new house, watching my adopted daughter Zoe play with her aunt Rebecca. Olivia's inside, probably raiding my fridge as usual. Elena calls from the patio. "Lunch is ready, everyone." As we gather around the table, I can't help but marvel at my new family. It's not what I expected, but it's so much more than I ever hoped for. Victor is serving time for assault and bribery, and Michael is struggling to rebuild his life, though that's no longer my concern. As for me, I've found my calling. I now run a support program for adopted children and survivors of domestic violence at my school. Sometimes, the worst experiences in life lead you to your true purpose. As Zoe climbs into my lap babbling about her day, I realize something important. Family isn't about blood or legacy. It's about love, support, and standing up for what's right. And that's a legacy I'm proud to pass on. Now that Cassandra's journey has come to an end, here's a question for you. If you discovered a family member was actively sabotaging your life plans and had a history of abusive behavior, would you expose them publicly or handle it privately? It's a tough call, right? Public exposure might protect others but could tear your family apart. Handling it privately might preserve relationships but allow the cycle of abuse to continue. Where do you draw the line between family loyalty and justice? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what you think. If this tale of family drama and triumph over adversity got you thinking, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that challenge your perspective on family loyalty and doing what's right. Trust me, there's plenty more where this came from. Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson, and I want to share how I dealt with my toxic in-laws. I'm a 28-year-old marketing executive, and until recently, I thought I had the perfect life. A dream job, a loving husband named Michael, and our adorable newborn son, Ethan. But as I soon discovered, perfection is an illusion, especially when you marry into a family like Michael's. The cracks first appeared at our wedding. I should have seen the red flags, but love makes you blind, right? Sarah, dear, that dress is interesting. I hope you're not planning on keeping that figure after the honeymoon, my mother-in-law, Linda said with a sickly sweet smile. I laughed it off, but Michael squeezed my hand and whispered, "Mom, Sarah looks beautiful. Knock it off." It was just the beginning. Fast forward to Ethan's birth, and the comments escalated. "Are you sure you're feeding him enough? He looks a bit small," Linda would remark, peering into his crib. "He's perfectly healthy, Linda. The pediatrician said so," I'd reply, gritting my teeth. But it wasn't just her. Michael's sister Jessica was constantly around, offering her unsolicited advice. "You know, Sarah, if you're struggling with motherhood, I'd be happy to take Ethan for a few days. I've always wanted a baby." I held Ethan a little tighter and forced a smile. "Thanks, Jess, but we're doing just fine." Then there was Robert, my father-in-law, the puppet master of this dysfunctional family circus. He loved to lecture about family legacy and the importance of presenting the united front. "Thompson men are made of stern stuff," he'd bellow. "That boy needs discipline from day one." Every time Robert spoke, I saw Michael tense up. There was history there, but Michael would brush it off whenever I asked. Things finally came to a head when Robert announced he was organizing a grand family photo shoot to celebrate Ethan's birth. "We need to show the world what a strong, successful family we are," he declared one night over dinner. I could feel the tension in the room. Linda fiddled with her pearls, Jessica smirked, and Michael looked like he wanted to disappear. "Do we really need to do this, Dad?" Michael asked. "Of course we do, son. It's tradition. The Thompsons always celebrate new additions in style." As we left that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. "Michael, is everything okay with your dad? With the family business?" He sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "It's complicated, Sarah. Let's just get through this photo shoot, okay?" I nodded, but deep down, I knew this picture-perfect facade was about to crack, and I had no idea just how ugly things would get. All I knew was that I would do anything to protect my little family. Little did I know that photo shoot would be the catalyst that exposed the rot at the core of the Thompson family. But that's a story for another day. If you want to hear what happened next, remember to like and subscribe. The day of the photo shoot arrived, and the tension was palpable. We gathered at Robert and Linda's sprawling mansion, all dressed to the nines like some twisted version of a Norman Rockwell painting. "Sarah, darling, you look adequate," Linda commented, eyeing my outfit, though perhaps a touch of lipstick wouldn't go amiss. I bit my tongue and focused on soothing Ethan, who was fussing from all the commotion. Michael was unusually quiet, his jaw clenched as he helped the photographer set up. As we arranged ourselves for the first shot, I overheard raised voices coming from Robert's study. Curiosity got the better of me, and I crept closer, Aiken still in my arms. "Dad, you can't keep doing this. The company will go under if—" "Don't tell me how to run my business, boy," Robert's voice thundered. "I built this empire from nothing, and I won't have you or anyone else tear it down." "But the auditors—" "To hell with the auditors," Robert snapped. "This is family, Michael. We protect our own." I backed away, my mind racing. What was going on with the family business? Before I could process it, Jessica appeared out of nowhere, her eyes gleaming. "Eavesdropping, Sarah? How unbecoming." "I was just looking for the bathroom," I lied smoothly. She smirked. "Of course you were. Come on, they're waiting for us." The photo shoot was a nightmare. Ethan wouldn't stop crying, Linda kept making snide comments about my parenting, and Michael looked like he wished he could vanish. During a break, I took Ethan to a quiet room to feed him. As I was burping him, Robert entered with a bottle of water in hand. "Here, let me help," he said, reaching for Ethan's bottle on the nightstand. Something about his tone made me uneasy. I watched in horror as he quickly unscrewed the cap and sprinkled white powder into it. "What are you doing?" I demanded, clutching Ethan protectively. Robert's face was calm, too calm. "Just a little something to keep him quiet for the photos. It's harmless, I assure you." "Are you insane?" I shouted, my voice carrying into the hallway. "You're trying to drug my baby." Michael burst into the room, followed by Linda and Jessica. "What's going on?" Michael asked, his voice tight with concern. "Your father just tried to drug Ethan." I was shaking with rage. "Dad, is this true?" Michael's face had gone pale. Robert scoffed. "Don't be dramatic, Sarah. It's just a mild sedative. We need these pictures to be perfect." "Perfect? You're willing to drug an infant for a photo?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Linda stepped in, her voice dripping with false calm. Now, let's not overreact. Robert only wanted to help." "Help? This is child abuse." I turned to Michael, my voice firm. "We're leaving. Now." As we stormed out, the sounds of the family arguing echoed behind us. In the car, Michael was silent, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. "Michael, talk to me. What's really going on with your family?" He sighed heavily. "It's worse than I thought, Sarah. Much worse. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg." I glanced at Ethan, sleeping peacefully in his car seat, unaware of the storm brewing around him. One thing was clear. I had to protect my family, and to do that, I needed to uncover the truth about the Thompsons, no matter how ugly it was. After the photo shoot fiasco, Michael and I decided to distance ourselves from his family, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was going on. "Michael, we need to talk about your dad's company," I said one night after putting Ethan to bed. He rubbed his temples, looking exhausted. "I know, Sarah. It's bad. Dad's been cooking the books for years." "What? How bad?" "Millions. Maybe tens of millions. I've been trying to fix it, but he won't listen." My stomach dropped. "We need to do something. What if this affects us? What about Ethan's future?" Michael looked torn. "They're still my family." "Family doesn't drug babies or commit fraud, Michael." That's when I decided to dig into Robert's business on my own. Late nights at the office turned into amateur detective work. I reached out to former employees, scored public records, and even hired a private investigator. One day, I hit the jackpot. "Michael, look at this," I said, showing him the documents. "Your dad's former business partner, Jack Reeves. He lost everything when your dad pushed him out." Michael's face paled. "I remember Jack. Dad always said he was incompetent. That's why they split." "Well, according to these documents, your dad framed him for embezzlement." Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Linda. "Sarah, dear, can we talk? I need to tell you something." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a cafe. I know Robert's done terrible things, Linda said, her hands trembling as she held her coffee cup. I've covered for him for years. The emotional abuse, the manipulation, I just couldn't take it anymore. Why now, Linda? Why are you telling me this? Because I'm scared for you and Michael. Robert's getting desperate. He knows you're digging. As I left the cafe, my mind was spinning, but before I could process Linda's words, my phone rang again. This time, it was Jessica. Sarah, I heard you met with Mom. Listen, we need to talk. Can you come over? I should have known better, but I went, and it was a big mistake. You need to back off, Jessica hissed the moment I walked through the door. You have no idea what you're messing with. Are you threatening me, Jess? I'm warning you for your own good. Drop this crusade of yours, or things will get ugly. I left Jessica's place fuming. When I got home, Michael was pacing in the living room. Where have you been? I've been calling for hours. Getting threatened by your sister, that's where. Michael's face fell. Sarah, maybe we should let this go. It's tearing the family apart. I couldn't believe my ears. Let it go. Your father tried to drug our son. He's ruined people's lives, and you want to just let it go. It's complicated, Sarah. You don't understand. No, I understand perfectly. You're scared of your father. Well, I'm not. Someone has to stop him, and if you won't, I will. I stormed out of the room, my mind made up. I had all the evidence I needed. It was time to take Robert down, with or without Michael's help. The Thompsons had no idea what was coming their way, and I was done playing nice. It was time for justice, served ice cold. 6 months after the photo shoot disaster, Robert organized another family gathering. The invitation arrived in our mailbox like a ticking time bomb. We have to go, Michael said, his voice strained. I nodded, a plan already forming. Oh, we'll be there, all right. The day of the gathering, I felt eerily calm as we pulled up to the Thompson mansion. I squeezed Michael's hand. Whatever happens in there, remember I love you, I said. He looked at me, confused. Sarah, what are you planning? I just smiled and got out of the car, Ethan in my arms. The house was buzzing with family members and business associates. Robert was holding court in the living room, all smiles and fake cheer. When he saw us, his eyes narrowed slightly. Michael, Sarah, so glad you could make it. And there's my grandson. I plastered on a smile. Wouldn't miss it for the world, Robert. As the evening progressed, I kept my eye on the door. Right on cue, Jack Reeves walked in, looking nervous but determined. Robert's face strained of color. Jack, what are you doing here? I invited him, I said, stepping forward. I think it's time for some truth, don't you? The room fell silent as Jack began to speak, laying out years of Robert's fraud and manipulation. I added my own evidence, emails and financial records flashing on the TV screen. This is ridiculous, Robert sputtered. You can't believe this nonsense. But the damage was done. Business associates muttered, edging toward the door. Linda stood up, her voice shaking. It's all true. I've known for years. I can't keep quiet anymore. Jessica jumped in, desperate to salvage the situation. Daddy would never do something like this. Sarah's obviously manipulated these records. Her defense backfired spectacularly when I revealed her complicity in some of Robert's schemes. The gathering descended into chaos. Robert was shouting, Linda was crying, and Jessica was frantically dialing her lawyer. In the midst of it all, Michael turned to me, his eyes wide. You did all this. I nodded, holding Ethan close. Someone had to. As we left the crumbling Thompson empire behind, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. A year later, life looked very different. Robert's company was under federal investigation, and he was facing potential jail time. Linda had filed for divorce and was in therapy, finally breaking free from decades of abuse. Jessica, her reputation in tatters, had moved across the country. Michael and I focused on our own little family, our careers flourishing now that we were free from the toxic Thompson influence. We kept minimal contact with Michael's family, prioritizing Ethan's safety and our own peace of mind. As I watched Ethan play in our backyard, I reflected on the past year. It hadn't been easy, but standing up to the Thompsons was the best decision I ever made. Sometimes, the only way to deal with toxic people is to cut them out completely and let karma do its work. In the end, living well really is the best revenge. The story has come to an end, but now I have a question for you. If you discovered your in-laws were involved in illegal activities that could potentially harm your child, would you expose them, even if it meant tearing your spouse's family apart? What would you do in Sarah's shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinions matter, and I'd love to hear how you'd handle such a complex family situation. If you enjoyed this story of justice and standing up against toxic behavior, please hit that like button. It really helps support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more compelling stories of triumph over adversity. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey there, I'm Sarah, and my childhood felt like something straight out of a heartwarming movie, all thanks to my mom, Linda. She was my rock, my cheerleader, and my best friend all rolled into one. I can still remember the mouth-watering smell of her homemade cookies wafting through our tiny apartment. Every night, she tucked me in with a bedtime story, her voice as soothing as a lullaby. Sarah, honey, she'd say, you can be anything you want to be. Just be kind and work hard. Those words became my mantra, even when times were tough, and boy, were they tough sometimes. Mom never let me feel like I was missing out, though. She turned our financial struggles into little adventures. Look, Sarah, she'd exclaim, holding up a dress she'd sewn from scraps. It's a one-of-a-kind Sarah original. I'd twirl around in my new designer outfit, feeling like the luckiest kid in the world. Dad wasn't in the picture. He left when I was just a baby, so it was just Mom and me. She juggled work and raising me on her own, never once complaining. One day, when I was about 8, I asked her, Mom, don't you miss having a husband? She smiled, pulled me close, and said, Sweetie, I have all the love I need right here. That's the kind of woman my mom is, selfless, strong, and full of love. As I grew older, her dedication to my education became clear. She'd sit with me for hours, helping me with homework, even when she was exhausted from working double shifts at the diner. Education is the key to a better life, Sarah, she'd remind me. No one can ever take that away from you. Those words stuck with me. I buried myself in my studies, determined to make her proud. And it paid off. By high school, I was at the top of my class. That's when Aunt Karen started showing up more. Mom's sister had always been around, but now she was a constant presence, always smiling, always offering a helping hand. Linda, you work too hard, she'd say. Let me help out more. Mom was grateful, and so was I. But little did we know what was brewing behind that helpful facade. Everything changed during my senior year. I scored a full-ride scholarship to State University, and Mom couldn't have been prouder. But our celebration was short-lived. That same week, Mom was diagnosed with a chronic illness. Suddenly, our roles reversed. I became the caretaker, juggling college preparations and Mom's doctor appointments. I'm so sorry, sweetie, Mom said one night, her face pale against the hospital pillows. This isn't how it's supposed to be. I held her hand tightly. Don't you dare apologize, Mom. It's my turn to take care of you now. As Mom's condition worsened, Aunt Karen stepped in even more, offering to manage Mom's finances, handle her medical appointments, and keep the house running. At the time, it felt like a godsend. If only we'd known the truth behind those comforting smiles and hugs. But that's a story for another day. Just know that sometimes the people closest to you can surprise you in the worst possible ways. Stay tuned for what happens next. You won't believe where this story goes. College life hit me like a freight train. Between classes, assignments, and caring for Mom, I was running on fumes. Aunt Karen became our saving grace, or so I thought. Sarah, honey, you focus on your studies, and I'll take care of your mom, she'd say, her smile warm and reassuring. I was grateful, truly, but something felt off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. One day, while paying Mom's bills, I noticed a strange discrepancy in her account. Hey, Mom, did you make a big purchase recently? I asked. She looked at me, confused. No, sweetie, I shrugged it off, chalking it up to a bank error. But that uneasy feeling in my stomach wouldn't go away. As the weeks passed, Mom's condition worsened, and the doctors recommended more intensive care, which meant higher expenses. Aunt Karen took over the finances, insisting it was one less thing for us to worry about. Then, one night, I was home for the weekend, trying to catch up on sleep when I was jolted awake by voices. Karen, what have you done? I heard Mom's voice, weak but furious. Linda, you're confused. It's the medication. Don't patronize me. I saw the bank statements. How could you? My heart pounded as I crept down the hallway, straining to hear. I needed the money, Linda. You don't understand. Get out. Get out. I rushed into the room. Mom was shaking, tears streaming down her face. Aunt Karen looked like she'd seen a ghost. What's going on? I demanded. Karen quickly composed herself. Nothing, sweetie. Your mom's just upset about her meds. I'll handle it. But I wasn't buying it anymore. That night, I went through Mom's finances myself. And what I found made me sick. Thousands of dollars had been transferred to an account I didn't recognize. The next day, I confronted Karen. How could you steal from your own sister? She laughed, but it was cold and mocking. Steal? Oh, Sarah, you're so naive. Your mother offered to help me. Now she's just confused. You're lying, I shouted. Her eyes narrowed. Prove it. That's when I realized the loving aunt I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone calculated and cruel. That night, I couldn't sleep. Instead, I ordered hidden cameras and set them up in Mom's room. It felt wrong, like an invasion of privacy. But I had to protect her. Little did I know those cameras would capture something far worse than theft. It was just another Tuesday and I was supposed to be in class. But something, call it intuition, made me turn around and head home. When I got there, the house was eerily quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard a muffled sound coming from Mom's room. I ran, my heart in my throat, and what I saw will haunt me forever. Aunt Karen was standing over Mom's bed, pressing a pillow over her face. Stop, I screamed, lunging forward. Karen jumped back, shock and guilt written all over her face. Sarah, I was just fluffing her pillow, she stammered, but Mom was gasping, her eyes wide with terror. With shaking fingers, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. Please help. My aunt just tried to kill my mother. Everything after that was a blur. Police sirens, paramedics rushing in, Karen being led away in handcuffs, still protesting her innocence. Mom was rushed to the hospital, and while we waited for news, a detective approached me. Miss, we found some concerning financial records at your home. Do you know anything about this? I told him everything, the missing money, the arguments, my suspicions. He nodded grimly. We'll need to conduct a full investigation. It looks like your aunt has been embezzling funds for years. The next few days were a nightmare. Mom was stable but weak, and I barely left her side. Then the calls started coming in from family members. Sarah, what's this we're hearing about Karen? It can't be true. You must have misunderstood. Are you sure you're not overreacting? Their doubt cut deep, but I stood firm. I hired a lawyer determined to see justice done. As the investigation unfolded, the full extent of Karen's betrayal came to light. She hadn't just stolen from Mom. She'd been preying on elderly relatives for years. Mom's health slowly improved, and one day she squeezed my hand and whispered, I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. I kissed her forehead. It's not your fault, Mom. She fooled us all. The courtroom was packed on the day of Karen's trial. As the prosecutor laid out the case, gasps echoed through the room. Years of fraud, manipulation, and finally, attempted murder. Karen sat stone-faced, but I saw the moment she realized it was over. Her carefully crafted facade crumbled. One by one, victims came forward, elderly aunts and uncles I barely knew, all with similar stories. Karen, the helpful niece who drained their savings. She told me it was for a good cause. One great aunt testified, her voice trembling. I trusted her. The hardest part was watching Mom take the stand. She looked so small, so fragile, but her voice was strong as she recounted that terrible day. I woke up and couldn't breathe, she said. I saw Karen's eyes and they were empty. When the verdict came in, guilty on all counts, I didn't feel joy, just relief. As Karen was led away, she glanced at me. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the aunt I used to love. But it quickly vanished. The aftermath was tough. Some family members still couldn't believe it. Others were ashamed they hadn't seen the signs. Mom and I had a lot of healing to do, both physically and emotionally. One night, as we sat in our living room, now free of Karen's shadow, Mom turned to me. Sarah, I've been thinking, what happened to us must be happening to others too. I nodded, understanding. We should do something. And that's how our support group, Families Against Elder Abuse, was born. It started small, just a few people gathered in our living room. But it grew. We shared stories, resources, and warning signs to watch for. I began speaking at community centers, schools, anywhere that would have me. Elder abuse is real, I tell them. and it often comes from those we trust most. It wasn't easy. Some days the memories would hit hard, but every time we helped a family recognize the signs or supported someone through their own ordeal, it felt like a victory. Mom's health improved, and she became a beacon of hope for others, a living testament that there is life after betrayal. As for me, I finished college, but my path had shifted. I went into social work, specializing in elder care protection. Karen's actions had torn our family apart, but from that destruction, we built something meaningful. A community, a support system, a way to turn our pain into purpose. Every night, I thank whatever force brought me home that day, and I promise myself, never again, not on my watch. Our story isn't over, but now we're writing it on our own terms. If sharing it helps even one person, then every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt will have been worth it. Because in the end, love wins. Not the fake love Karen showed, but the real, selfless love that Mom taught me, the kind of love that heals, that builds, that changes the world. And that's a love worth fighting for. One day, about a year after Karen's conviction, I received a letter. It was from her, sent from prison. My hands shook as I opened it. "Sarah," it began, "I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness." I read it, tears streaming down my face. Karen expressed deep remorse, explaining the desperation that led to her actions. She didn't try to excuse what she'd done but offered some context. Gambling debts, a failed business, mounting medical bills for her child I never knew existed. I showed the letter to Mom, and her response surprised me. "We can't forget, Sarah," she said, "but maybe we can find a way to forgive, not for her, but for us." It wasn't easy, but we decided to use Karen's story as part of our outreach, not to justify her actions, but to show how complex life can be. The story has come to an end, but now I have a question for you. If you were in Sarah's position, could you ever forgive someone like Aunt Karen for their betrayal, even after they expressed remorse? Or do you believe that some actions are truly unforgivable? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might help others wrestling with similar dilemmas. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. We share thought-provoking content that explores the complexities of human relationships and personal growth. Join our community as we navigate life's challenging scenarios together.